Hey, IMNerds. I just wanted to let you all know that we have a YouTube channel called IMNerd Podcast where we upload more content like our Versus series that pits characters from different anime against each other, as well as our Broken Cards and History segment in IMNerd News, which is dedicated to keeping you up to date on anything relevant happening in nerd culture. So when you're finished with this episode, check out the channel and let us know what you think. And let's start the show. All right, welcome back to the IMNerd Podcast, nerds. It is episode 10 now, and we will be talking about Bleach. My name is Frazier, and I'm here with my co-host, Kenny.
Yes, indeed. When you first got into Bleach, before you knew what it was, did you or anybody else try to make fun of it and call it Clorox because you're a stupid kid?
Yes.
Okay.
When I initially got into Bleach, it was in high school, and I thought the name was so stupid that I didn't even watch it for the first couple years of it being out. But real quick, before we go too far, I want to say I am Aizen Sasuke.
Damn, I'm fucking Don Kyoji. That's who I am.
Who are you?
Don Kyoji.
Who the fuck is Don Kyoji?
Oh, you don't know who Don Kyoji is? Don Kyoji is the black guy with like the dreads, and he's in all the filler episodes.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now.
He's got his own theme and everything.
Yes.
And he he thinks he's a Ghostbuster. And like he goes into like, I don't know, some abandoned school building or whatever to chase a ghost, and he ends up getting fucked up or something. And Ichigo saves the day in silence or some crazy shit. I don't know. And then every filler after that, Don Kyoji is the man.
I remember him now. There was a lot of rant episodes with baseball and shit like that in Bleach.
Mm-hmm. If you wanted to skip filler, if you saw Don Kyoji showed up, you skipped the episode.
Yes.
A lot of people skipped his episodes.
That was how we knew that some bullshit was about to be awry. But anyway, so
Don.
Most people know Bleach as one of the big three of the golden era of anime, where you had Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. And it was very different from those two. I like that the big three are like, they're just not similar in any real way. They're so different.
Yeah, other than being shonen,
and
like having the shonen similarities, they are pretty different.
They're very different. But the way I got into Bleach was literally some kid who I was kind of friends with, only because of homeroom. I think that was the only class we really had together. But in homeroom, there's a kid that sat next to me, and he would always talk about Bleach when I would mention Naruto and how he doesn't really. I feel like he's being a hipster, but he was like, I don't really watch Naruto anymore. I don't really read it. He was like, I'm all into Bleach now, because Bleach, I feel like, was newer. So he always made a point that, when I was talking about Naruto, to just mention Bleach. And I was like, I'm not watching something that's named after detergent. Like, that's just not happening. I was like, it can't be good. Like, it can't possibly be good if it's named after
Such
Clorox.
a bad name.
It's just not. I don't even know how the name came about. I'm not even going to look it up. But I was reluctant to try Bleach at first. And then, of course, the same thing that happened with Naruto, where the Rock Lee Gaara fight got me into it. The fight between Ichigo and Byakuya is what got me into watching Bleach. I don't know how I saw it. I don't know if I was at a friend's house and he was like, just watch this clip or whatever. But however I ended up seeing it, Ichigo versus Byakuya, that clip and all the fucking AMVs that came with that clip, because there was a ton of AMVs for Ichigo versus Byakuya at the time.
Yes, there were.
Got me into Bleach, essentially. That's how I first ever watched it. And I was like, okay, I have to get into this shit now, because what I just saw with Ichigo flash stepping across Byakuya's face, like making that circle of like just moving so fast that Byakuya couldn't track him, basically, it looked really cool.
Byakuya versus Ichigo is fucking so tight. We'll get into that. How I got in, my friend Cheyenne, mentioned him a couple times on here, but he was telling me about it for a while. He was like, oh, you gotta watch or read. So at the time, I don't know if the anime was out yet. He had a bunch of the manga though. Like he got on the manga pretty early. He was saying like, oh, you gotta watch this. He was like, I know, or read it. I know we always talking about different stuff. He was basically saying like, I think some of these characters could beat Saiyans, and he was like, there's like these captains, and they could definitely beat Raditz or something. And he would talk about it a bunch, but I never got around to reading it. And then one day I went on a vacation with his family. His family went to, I think, Myrtle Beach, I want to say. And that's a pretty long drive. They drove there and they brought me with them. I can't remember how long the drive was, but it was a long ass drive. I want to say 10 hours or something. And then on the way there and the way back, I read Bleach because I was just sitting in a car for 10 hours, like nothing to do. So I brought a bunch of manga and brought my Game Boy and stuff. And by the time batteries were dead and I read all my stuff, I just had his manga And then he was like, here, like you can start Bleach. And that's pretty much how I started Bleach. I was in the back of a car for 10 hours. I was like,
Wow.
let's give it a
you watched
try.
a good amount of it in that
Or
time.
read
a good amount of it in that time.
Yeah, I've read, I want to say it was at least the first 5 volumes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of did a binge of Bleach as well when after seeing that Ichigo versus Byakuya fight, I definitely went back to episode 1. So I guess we could start with some of the similarities between the big 3, like Naruto, Bleach, One Piece. They're obviously all shonens, but then Bleach has the unique thing with all the characters that are very different from each other, different races, different styles of art. The art style for One Piece is way different. The art style for Bleach is way different. And the art style for Naruto is way different they're all very different from each other. And particularly one of the cool things about Bleach is how Tite Kubo, the author, he draws his characters in different clothes very often because they're students. Most of them are like school students or posing as school students. And he will just draw them with outfits that are not the same thing every chapter and every episode, which is really cool to me because for the most part, shonens, the characters in one outfit for 50% of the entirety of.
They might get some alterations and stuff, but a lot of times,
but for the most part, they're going to be in the same exact thing. Whereas you would see Ichigo with cool shirts on it that I feel like they had to become merch at some point in real life because I know that's how people
I would buy them. That's something I've been meaning to do. I want to buy shirts, not anime shirts, like not a shirt with an anime character with Ichigo on it. I want to buy shirts that are worn
from
in
it.
anime.
Yeah.
I want to find more shirts like that.
Some of Ichigo's t-shirts were cool to me, and I think his name means strawberry, and I would see he would have like a pink shirt on, and it would have strawberries on and stuff like that, and it would just say some little catchphrase that may have been a bad translation or whatever it was, but it just I could see myself wearing some of the clothes.
I love the bad Japanese translation shirts.
We call them English in our our group. We usually, I think I got that from Medina, but we usually call those bad translations English. but anyway. So one of the other unique things that it has is like a unique magic system. They have that whole way of destruction, way of binding. Their Keto system is different from most other anime that we've seen. And
Keto 99.
Yeah, they call out the number of it, and if they do an incantation, it's stronger. Which that part is normal for all spell casting things. But the fact that they have spells and it's an anime mostly about sword fighting and Zanpakuto's being the most.
I'm going to be honest, until you brought it up, I always forget that there's spells in Bleach.
I think that there are spells, right? Like,
no, you're right. No, there are spells, but
yeah,
I always forget about them. I feel like
they're not used a lot.
Yeah.
And the main character doesn't use them at all. So it makes you he doesn't touch Keto at all. So it makes you really forget about it until someone does it and you're like, oh shit, this is a thing. Usually, now that I think about it, most of the people who do Keto are obviously people from the Goatee 13, Aizen, Byakuya, the lieutenants. They're the main people who do Keto. But then you have people who are just straight brawlers, like Kimpachi, Iraqi Kimpachi, and Ichigo, who just straight up fights. And Ishida, I don't think does any Keto either. I don't remember.
What's Iraqi's one dude, the bald kid? What's his name?
Ikaku.
Ikaku, yeah.
Yep. I like him a lot.
Yeah, Kaku's the name.
Yeah. So Keto is something that they use not too often, but when they do use it, it's always a big deal, especially if there was an incantation with it. But I like that difference and just something unique to Bleach that you don't usually see, especially in sword anime. They usually is like, this is a sword anime. All you will see is mostly swords. But then you get a character like Ishida, who uses the bow and arrow, and you got Chad, who uses like his weird arm thing.
Weird arm gauntlet, yo.
Yeah. So everyone has like their own fighting style. Some people are just Keto masters, as they call them, and they pretty much don't use a sword really. They're just all Keto based. But I do like that, the art style, the fashion. Then another difference is that for whatever reason, Kubo doesn't do a lot of background drawing, and we talk about this and we laugh about it all the time. But the backgrounds in Bleach chapters are so sparse, like there's not much going on. And if you think about how he designed a lot of the scenery. Soul Society is very bland. Every building is essentially the same size, with the main building being in the middle, being the tallest, and everything else, all the other like houses and stuff are just the same level. Heko Mundo is an actual desert, and there's only one structure.
Desert.
There's nothing there.
But for example, Alabasta in One Piece is a desert, but there's cities and buildings.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's the exact opposite
architecture.
of One Piece.
Yeah. There's like, for example, where you have Naruto, where I don't know, Naruto might have 3 outfits total in the whole series. Ichigo has 1,500 outfits.
Yes.
And Luffy he's got the same general outfit, but he changes it every arc. He'll change like
Yeah.
his vest or his jean shorts or whatever.
Mhm.
But Taikuba put all that effort into the outfits. He
did.
He took away the backgrounds. He's like, y'all ain't getting backgrounds.
Yeah, there's no background in
Get
those
outfits.
chapters. I could read a Bleach chapter in under 15 minutes. I cannot read a One Piece chapter in under 20 minutes.
No.
There's not, because of just how much detail there is in a One Piece
To
chapter.
look at, yeah.
As opposed to a Bleach chapter where sometimes it's just words and maybe a character's head. Sometimes there's not even that though. Like literally sometimes it's just words. And that's fine. Like that's just the style of Bleach, I guess. But
Yeah.
it is a stark difference between Naruto, which is in the middle. Like there's definitely backgrounds drawn and stuff like that in Naruto. And then One Piece is the extreme where there's so much detail that you really have to study everything so that you don't miss anything. Or at least that's how I always feel when I'm reading One Piece, is that I don't want to miss anything.
I agree. I personally really enjoy that about One Piece, but I know I have a close friend who he loves One Piece and he wants to start reading it because he just wants to start reading it, but he sticks with the anime simply because when he tries to read the manga, he's like, dude, it's information overload. Like it's so much for my eyes.
It can
to
be,
take
yeah.
in.
Yeah, I can see that.
Without it being colored, especially without there being color to kind of separate certain parts of the image for your eyes, reading One Piece could be difficult. For me, I've gotten used to it, but
same.
Yeah.
But I also read pretty much all of One Piece up to where it is currently in a few months. Like when I did read it years ago, I read so much of it at once, so I had no choice but to adapt to the way it was, and that just became very normal to me after 40 chapters of that. It's like, this is just how it is. You just have to know how he draws and how intense the detail is. But yeah, Bleach is very different in that. So, all right, let's pivot over to how we talked about going Super Saiyan and the Sharingan as being pretty much in the SS tier and the S tier of cool things from anime that are iconic today and like everyone pretty much knows. For Bleach, it's Bankai, obviously. Bankai is the coolest shit in Bleach. It is what makes, I feel like, the people who like Bleach, I feel like that's a big reason why we do like Bleach is because of Bankai. It's their transformation. It's their Super Saiyan. It's their, I'm activating my power now.
Yep.
And part of the show being so cool is finding out what people's Bankai was going to be, like speculating on it. And then when you actually see it, it's like this whole big reveal. And it's like, holy shit, his Bankai is crazy. Like, that's so nuts. I remember talking to my friends about that all the time.
Yeah, learning what the name of the sword was and like the Shikai, I think the first one was called.
The Shikais, yep.
And then if you're a master for 5,000 years and et cetera, the other thing. And then you get your Bankai and Ichigo goes, well, I've been using it for 6 months.
Yep. The spectacle of it all, him having to do all of that extra training to unlock his Bankai in a really quick period of time. Obviously, he passes it because it's a fucking shonen and he's the main character and he's going to get it.
Also, when he does it,
else.
When he shows to us and the world the first time, Byakuya is like, oh, that's not a Bankai.
Yeah, it's too small.
It's small, yeah. And
Bankais are always big.
They talk about usually Bankais are really, really big.
Another cool thing is that we don't actually see him attain his Bankai. They leave it off at a cliffhanger. So when he's fighting against his sword or whatever, trying to get his Bankai, you literally don't know if he succeeded or not. But he has a time limit. And if he doesn't get it in a certain time limit, that's it. So when he does fight against Byakuya that first time, and that's like one of the most iconic moments in Bleach, it's a big reveal that, oh shit, he's activating Bankai. Like what? And you see, and it's obviously so fucking cool. I love the way Ichigo looks in Bankai. Like I don't know why I have not cosplayed as Ichigo yet, because black is my favorite color.
Ichigo's first Bankai is so good.
It is so, like when he does it, it's like Bankai, and he shoots the laser out of his sword, like the Tensai Zangetsu. It just so good. I watched that scene right before this episode.
When he was, because it's a little fuzzy. When he was training for Bankai, that wasn't the time when he was training. Remember when he was training and there was like a million different swords and he had to find the right sword? He was just like picking them up. Was that?
Yeah, I think that was part of it.
Was that the Bankai training, or was that just to learn the sword's name? I can't remember.
I forget exactly. It's been a very long time, but I forget exactly how it went. But I do remember him train, because he started out with Shikai from the gate. Like he just came out with the big ass.
His sword was unreleased, and that's something. Yes. That's something that they were talking about in Soul Society. They're like, dude, you're walking around with your sword just unreleased all the time.
Yeah, like his sword is naturally the big ass like Buster sword type of thing, like the big cleaver. And he never really reverts back to a small sword except when he goes in Bankai. He's all backwards. Like everyone else's sword is a regular katana when they're not using it in Shikai or Bankai. Ichigo's Shikai is like this gigantic fucking sword. You never really see what his sword looks like outside of Shikai. And then his Bankai is a katana.
Yeah.
So Byakuya was like, that's not even Bankai. And rightfully so, because to him, having lived for, in Bleach, captains and stuff, they live for thousands of years. Like, I think Yamamoto Genryusai, Captain Commander, was literally the captain for 1,000 years. So they live for thousands of years, and he had never seen anything like that. Like, why is your Bankai so small? And you're calling that's not Bankai, but
damn,
he quickly realized. He did. He was size comparison.
He really was.
And it's just like, yeah. But yeah, Bankai is...
Ichigo was so fast.
Yes, that's his
Dude,
ability.
that first fight, because then Byakuya, he had the pedals, like the blade pedals, and then Ichigo started outrunning them.
Yeah,
and then
Senbon Zakura Kageyoshi.
Yeah, and dude, Senbon Zakura. That shit is so sick.
I
When
love
Senbon Zakura. And he fucking drops the sword and the blade disappears.
Yeah, then you see the hallway. You see the hallway of swords come up at first, and then they just explode into petals. That shit is so cool. Yo, can we talk about, so prior to Ichigo fighting Byakuya fought his vice captain, Renji.
Yes.
And Renji had just got his Bankai and used it on Byakuya, and Byakuya made that really cocky statement saying, you won't even make me put my knee on the ground. And Renji uses Bankai, and Byakuya's just teleporting around, like flash stepping, not getting caught by any of the attacks, blocking everything, slashing everything. Nothing's happening to him, obviously. He's super strong. And then towards the end of the fight, he makes Byakuya kneel. Like at one point, the Bankai of Renji comes down on Byakuya so hard that he actually does have his knee touch the ground. And that obviously pisses him off because that was what he set out to say will not happen.
Yep.
And then he goes and activates his fucking Bankai, and Renji just gets shredded. I remember the scene. It's just so much blood. Even in an anime, they show so much blood come out of his body from the petals, like surrounding his body. And then because each petal is a sword, they just slice him up real bad. Yes, and Renji, I thought he was dead at that time. I remember seeing that and thinking, holy shit, he just killed his vice captain. Like, that's crazy. Like, he just killed him. So you see Bankai. Yes, exactly.
Until my man put his hand up. He was like, hold up, I can start using my hands.
Yeah, he said it's faster now, right? Like, he's like, if I put my hand out, they're way faster, which I always thought of him as like a Gaara character. He has the Gaara thing going on where his petals, because they protect him too. If you try to attack him, they just kind of come in front of him and they block. And if you try to get close, like they'll attack you and stuff. It literally is like the sand that Gaara has. But the character is way cooler in my opinion, just because
it's not even close.
Yeah, Byakuya is, again, he's the Sesshomaru type, the quiet, brooding, always about my mission, never about anything fun. Byakuya is so much about his mission that he was willing to execute his own sister. Like, he was aiding the Goatee 13 in her execution, which is really what Bleach is all about at first. It starts off with Ichigo being attacked by hollows, him wanting to save his family and stuff. Rukia comes, she gets hurt. She's like, the only way you can save your family is if you pretty much become a Shinigami. She lends him her power by stabbing himself with her sword. And he becomes a Shinigami. Apparently that was a crime. And now she's on trial to be executed, so he goes to save her. And there's that one iconic moment where he does actually stop the execution. There's that big-ass phoenix that's about to kill her.
Yeah.
And the whole Goatee 13 is like watching. And Ichigo comes out of nowhere and fucking dispels the whole thing. And I don't even know how he did that. Like, that phoenix, that a fire looked like it could destroy anything. And he just was like, no. Like, just straight up no.
Hit him with the if you want some action.
Yup, that fucking music.
You have to be the center of attraction. I want to go back real quick for early Bleach. I want to ask you what do you think Tite Kubo had planned for After Soul Society? Because, okay, we have Bleach start the way you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of becomes a Monster of the Week show for a little bit.
Yeah.
Where things just happen. Ichigo's doing stuff. There's a new hollow that needs to be dealt with. And just kind of different things happen. He meets different characters. Things progress. We meet things like Grand Fisher, which was somewhat related to Ichigo's mom. And But events start to chain together, right? And then a story starts to kind of form out of this Monster of the Week format. And then we get the reveal that what Rukia did was a crime. And we have Renji. It's Renji and Byakuya that show up, right? And just house Ichigo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Ichigo goes and he meets, damn, I forgot his name. I'm being bad right now. Dude with the hat. He's dope as hell. Urahara is the shit.
Yeah, he's one of the most powerful characters in the
But he meets him. Anyway, all that shit happens. The whole plot, like you said, turns into saving Rukia. The whole Soul Society arc. And that's all of pretty much the absolute pinnacle of Bleach, in my opinion. There's cool things that happen after that for sure, but the pinnacle of Bleach is from the beginning all the way up through the whole Soul Society arc. And like you said, Bleach started with Rukia committing that crime that we didn't know was a crime at the time, to Soul Society, where he's being punished for that crime and then being rescued. Do you think there was much planning that went into what was going to happen after that? Because I do feel like after that is when a lot of people started to go, yeah, Bleach starts to slip here, et cetera, et cetera.
So I actually think the opposite. I feel like all of the beginning of it is definitely planned. I think that it was always known that that was a crime which she did. She was going to be rescued. The big part of Bleach, what Bleach actually becomes, is Aizen.
Yes.
And so at the end of the Soul Society arc, you find out, because the whole thing when they went was there was a mystery about how Aizen died. Remember, Aizen was supposedly murdered.
That shit was fucking, that shit was sick.
Yeah, that was
because it really did create like a murder mystery kind of feel, and you were feeling it out, and people were turning on each other. A
captain had been killed, and that was fucking huge because captains are so outrageously powerful. So first of all, you're thinking, well, who could have done it? That's the first thing. And the way his body looked, he looked brutalized. He was like crucified almost.
Yeah, up on a wall or something.
Yeah, he was like crucified. He looked really bad. So someone really powerful would have had to kill a captain. That was the first thing that when they went to Soul Society, it was like this whole murder mystery going on. But you have all this other shit happening at the same time. And it concludes with Aizen being revealed as this villain. And not just any villain. He's ridiculously powerful. And he's fucking with the Hollows, who up until this moment, you had always thought that the Hollows were obviously they're super evil compared to what everyone else, they eat human souls and stuff like that, and they go after humans. So Hollows are like this big evil thing, but he had used them to get away from the Goatee 13 unharmed. That laser came down, and once that laser came down, you cannot affect anyone in it. So Aizen was like rising up, and he did the thing where he took off his glasses and he slicked his hair back. I think all of that was planned.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know how much was planned after that, but that whole Soul Society arc concluding with Aizen, I think that he knew at least I want to get to this point to establish who the real villain is. Because
I agree.
You don't really have a villain before that. Like, if you want to be technical, you could say the whole Goatee 13 who's trying to kill Rukia, Ichigo's friend, is the villain, but that's not really a villain in an anime. You need to zone in on one concise issue, and killing random Hollows, like you said, Monster of the Week, killing random Hollows is not going to hold anyone's attention. But when they established that a captain had traded and started working with Hollows, and he intended to get the Hogyoko and all that stuff, like that creates a storyline. You now have someone who everyone hates. He's enemy of the state. Also, betrayal is probably one of the biggest ways to get people interested in a story. And you see it with Itachi, you see it with Orochimaru, you see it with Sasuke, and you see it with Aizen, you see it with Tozen and Gen, who are two other captains who also are on Aizen's side. And it's like, holy shit, this is like a little coup. Like, this is a whole thing. There's not just one traitor. Aizen's not dead at all.
I felt bad. I know some people probably don't care about I don't remember his name, but I'm having a hard time remembering a lot of characters' name right now. The dog captain,
Kimomura.
When my man Tozen turned on him, they were like best friends and shit. Yeah. And Tozen turned on him. I felt bad. I was sad. Yeah,
because that was his man. That was his right man.
They were like best friends, yeah. But yeah, no, I agree. I think that I definitely think Kubo had planned up to Aizen being a real villain and all of Soul Society. I think all that was planned. But going forward after that, I think he had ideas and moments in his head that he knew would be cool.
Yeah, but I think the Espada was planned. Like, I think the thought of making Hollows into Shinigamis is something that clearly is not an ass pull. It's one of those, like, we want this to be a thing. Yeah. Because the concept is so foreign at the time that it seems really cool. Like, holy shit, Hollows now have swords and they have release dates. So that, like, certain stuff like that, like you said, it's just, he definitely had certain things beforehand that were established that he probably wanted to convey, but how you get to each point, it seemed like it was a
little muddy. Just to, like, I guess, to jump into it, like I said, I think most people loved pretty much everything up and then all of Soul Society. Yeah. And in the next major arc after that, there's stuff in between. I think the Visored stuff is in between that and Hueco Mundo, where he meets, like, the Visoreds and, like, there's, like, the girl with the blonde hair and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then he gets beat up by Grimjow. That's before the actual Hueco Mundo, right? When Grimjow comes and, like, fucks his ass up.
Yeah, Grimjow beats the shit out of Ichigo. It's not even close. I mean, the introduction to the Espada was really harsh because Ukiura and Nami,
the big one,
they show up.
They're like Vegeta Nappa.
They show up first, I'm pretty sure, and Urahara's there, thank God, to protect people, but essentially they show up and you don't know anything about what numbers they are. You don't know how powerful they really are, but you can tell that they're next level. You can just, especially Ukiura, he just has that calmness.
He was messed up.
He's your typical anime villain that's super quiet and calculated and really, really powerful. So you don't understand at first how ridiculous they are. And then you quickly find out, like, holy shit, these are the top 10 villains, basically, next to Aizen.
That's when they open like a hole in that's when they let the Menos Grande come into the real world, right?
Yeah, it's real bad. And Urahara pretty much stops like things from going completely awry. But essentially, the introduction to the Espada establishes like, holy shit, Aizen is creating Shinigamis out of hollows. And that concept is wild. And he's like, I want the Hogyoko from Rukia. And at that time, so when he leaves Soul Society, when Aizen gets like lifted up out of Soul Society, he does the hair slick back thing. He doesn't have Rukia at the time, right?
You mean Orihime?
No, I mean Rukia, because Rukia is the one who had the Hogyoko in her. It was inside of her.
Oh, yeah, no, because he doesn't have Rukia, because that's what I was going to say. The whole plot of Hueco Mundo is going to save Orihime whenever they get around to kidnapping Orihime, but Rukia at this time is free, I believe.
Right, but I think that he extracted the Hogyoko out of her already.
Oh, yeah, because that was the point. He set up, that's right, he set up the execution and the whole thing to lower her soul power or whatever.
Yes, okay, it's coming back to me now. That way he could extract it, but he couldn't do anything with it without, or he wanted, we think at the time that he wanted Orihime to do something with her power to the Hogyoko. Come to find out, that was not even.
Yeah,
this is where it starts to get bad.
Yeah,
because
he helped orchestrate he helped orchestrate Rukia's execution, also that they could bring out like that execution machine that they were using, because it had all this Ryetsu built into it, and that
And he extracted the Hogyoko out of Rukia, and we didn't know what he really wanted to do, but then he goes after Orihime, and you're thinking, okay, it has something to do with her power, and they even mention it, like when Ukiura captures Orihime, he specifically says, Aizen has use for your power. But then he literally didn't even want it, apparently. Like, nothing comes of that. Which is where I think when you say a lot of it is just kind of happenstance, it's just like, what the fuck is going on? Stuff like that I didn't really like, because he made such a big deal about capturing Orihime. Like, it was such a big deal. And then I'm going,
it was a whole another rescue arc. That's where things start to feel, even though there was dope moments and dope characters in Hueco Mundo, that's where Bleach in some way started to lose some people, because it's like, okay, this is another rescue arc in a far less interesting area, like setting, and we're kind of doing the same story again.
Yeah, like literally doing the same story.
So
I guess let's talk about some of the most iconic Bleach moments, because there's so many of them, and I just want to start running down this list, because essentially this will be like a recap of Bleach, but also just talking about how we reacted to seeing some of the shit that happened. So one of the first things that I can think about, and this is in the very beginning when they first go to Soul Society, is Ichigo versus Iraqi Kimpachi, a captain. So like Ichigo somehow ends up in a fucking fight against the most brutal captain there is. And when you think back on it, there's no way that he should have even been close to winning this fight, or even.
This fight is so hot, but it also pisses me off.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no reason why they should have quote unquote drew. Because that's what they try to say. They try to say, like, oh no, Ichigo didn't beat him. Like, they fought to a draw. It's like,
yes.
Man, no, they get out of here.
Which is wild. Like, when you find out how powerful Zaraki really is, it's not even close. Like, Ichigo could not, on his best day, deal with this man that early. I don't know what they were thinking.
Also,
but that
he
fight
just got done fighting. I forgot his name again. Ikaku.
Yes.
Like, he just got done fighting Ikaku, and Ikaku was like, blah, 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 my captain, like, all this shit. And then.
Yeah, there's no way. And then he fights Zaraki, and Zaraki's eye patch comes off at one point. Mm-hmm. And the whole time you find out that the fucking eye patch has been holding back his Ryetsu. It's been eating it. Like, and then he wears bells so that way.
Dude, Zaraki's design is sick.
Oh, his design is one of the best.
His design is sick. When you look at him, and he's got the crazy hair, and he's got bells on the end of it. Yep. He just looks kind of like a rant, but he also looks like a badass, and you're looking at him, you're like,
and he has a cool ass voice too. His Japanese voice is sick.
Iraqi is sick, yo.
Yeah,
Iraqi Kimpachi is
he has
so
a little
sick.
girl with the pink hair, Yochiru or whatever. He has her on his shoulder all the time. So you're thinking like, okay, that's his vice captain. It's a little girl who never fights. She always seems harmless. And then he's like this brute who doesn't know the name of his sword. Mm-hmm. And apparently his sword is really fucked up too. Like the actual edge of his blade is all
It's fucked up.
and it has like flesh all over. It's kind of on some Shishio from Kenshin shit. Like his sword is just absolutely fucking destroyed. Doesn't know the name of it. Doesn't know his Shikai or Bankai. But he's still a captain. So you immediately think, holy shit, how powerful is this guy? Because he's a captain without knowing the name of his sword. Like that is so ridiculous.
Yeah,
like,
at that time, wasn't one of the rules to become a captain?
Yes.
You had to have a Bankai.
You had to.
He didn't even know the name of his sword.
The only ways to become a captain, I think, were to obviously be very powerful and unlock Bankai. But the other way was to kill the previously sitting captain. You had to basically challenge him and take the seat. And so obviously he did.
I don't remember. Did we ever find out who that was? Was there ever a flashback or no?
They did do a flashback of him, I guess, killing whoever the previous captain was, but I don't think that we actually know who it was. I don't think
it wasn't like some irrelevant. It wasn't like a relevant character.
Yeah. Like I don't think that we ever find out. And we didn't go and watch all of Bleach again to do this episode. So if we're wrong about that, you guys let us know. Yeah. But I don't recall them ever fully going into detail about who it was that he killed to become a captain. We just know that it was a guy. I think it might have been his master at one point. I feel like it was Iraqi's master or something. But anyway, he ended up killing a captain to become a captain. Yeah. And he doesn't even know Bankai or anything close. He doesn't even know Shikai. So he's outraged. And he's
just OD.
And he's also reducing his own power with the eye patch. He wears bells so that people can hear him coming. So he gives himself handicaps to make fighting interesting. He likes to cut things. That's like his whole thing. Such a cool character design. Literally, I go back and forth all the time about who is my favorite captain in Bleach. A lot of times it's Byakuya, and a lot of times it's Iraqi, and then some of the times it's Mayuri. But the captains as a whole, the idea of the captains is so fucking cool. I love it. It's like they're just so cool. You always have
definitely just Iraqi Kimpachi, man.
That's so cool,
boy.
Man. His name's also Ken.
His name's also Ken. That's true. Yeah. That helped. That
I used to call you
that. Him my favorite. You did.
I used to call you Ken-chan. What his little lieutenant used to call him. Ken-chan. I used to say that.
Shit is great, yo.
Yeah, I love it.
Iraqi's my boy. That fight was so that fight
well
was so
animated too. At one point, Zaraki grabs Ichigo's sword by the blade and pulls Ichigo towards him, and he's about to take his own sword and slice Ichigo straight through with it. It was so brutal what he tried to do to Ichigo in that fight. But Ichigo ends up slashing off that eye patch, and that was the biggest mistake he made.
That was a huge mistake.
Yeah, so good. So that's one of the most iconic moments in Bleach. And then we have, following Aizen's, reveal as being a villain, one of the first ways that you see him villainous is when he's hugging on the one girl, Hinamori.
Yeah, and she was one of his lieutenants or something, right?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was in his whole whatever they call it.
He fucking tricked her into thinking Hitsugaya was the killer.
Yep, and he stabs her through, and Hitsugaya sees it and rages, and it's the first time you see Hitsugaya Toshiro use his own Bankai, and it is fucking epic as hell. It literally creates snow in the area. They're indoors, and it starts snowing. And Aizen even said some cocky shit like,
yes, he did. I was waiting for you to say this shit.
There's two cocky things. There's two cocky things Aizen says. After he tries to kill Hinamori, Toshiro gets really angry. And Aizen says, damn, I actually meant to dice her up so bad that she would be unrecognizable. He makes a comment saying that basically he wanted to make it look so horrible that you didn't even know who she was after he was done. But then Toshiro stopped that from happening or whatever by showing up. But then after he goes Bankai, and it's so cool, he has these wings, he has the tail, he has the claws, he looks fucking sick, ice everywhere, it's snowing. He does his attack against Aizen, and Aizen looks like he got caught by it. He looks like he actually got ran through. And then you see him fade in the ice, and he's behind Toshiro at this point. And Toshiro's body just explodes with blood. It looks like he got sliced up real bad. And Aizen's just standing there looking up at the sky as it's snowing. He says, it's so beautiful seeing snow out of season like this, isn't it?
Yes!
And I'm like,
that
yo,
shit was so fucking hot.
Fuck is this guy? Because Toshiro, 1, is a captain. 2, that was his Bankai of all things. And he one-pieced it. It wasn't even a fight. It was a one-hit quit. It was an immediate humbling of Toshiro. You had seen Toshiro fight against Ichimaru Gen before that with just his Shikai, and it was Gen Shikai versus his Shikai, and the dragon coming out, the ice dragon, going against Gen's sword that can get really long and really small. You saw that whole battle, and you're like, holy shit, Toshiro's really cool. He's really powerful. But then you see Aizen versus Toshiro, and you realize that the difference in power is so wide.
Not even close.
And I guess you have to do shit like that, right? Because this is the main villain. Yep. So you have to make your Madara actually scale to higher than all of the captains. Otherwise, how the fuck could they even be?
When he hit me with the like, it's beautiful to see snow in the spring or whatever he said. Yeah, I remember popping off. That's something that's hot about Bleach is
the shit talking.
The shit talk. The shit talk and the one-liners. Bleach
has the best shit talking in all of anime.
Man, they are shit talking. Remember the scene where we're jumping around a bit, but remember, because this is a pretty epic moment when Aizen and Ichigo, shit's going down, and Ichigo's like way over here. And Aizen's like, why are you all the way over there? Like, what are you so far away for? Can't you see? And then the next panel, Aizen's fucking hand is on Ichigo's chest. Yeah. He's like, see, just like that. Like, I'm right next to you. He says something wild. Like, he says something.
Yeah, wild. And he says some shit like
just like that. Like, we're together again or something. Like, he just puts
evading is only for people. Evading is only a thing when you're on the same level as the person. Like, essentially, you have no reason to be evading me because it's worthless. Like, evading in a battle between me and you is actually the dumbest thing that you could do. And he's like, look, just like this, I can touch your heart.
Yeah.
And the next panel, he's just literally touching Ichigo's raw chest.
And they were miles apart.
Yes.
Like, they were so far apart.
Yes.
Ichigo was trying to get away, and then the next panel,
like, why are you backing up? That's something that you only do when you're on the same level. Oh, man.
That shit was sick. Or so
go ahead.
When we talk about this a lot, Sweet Fawn's one skill where she touches you twice in the same spot.
Yeah, that shit is cool as hell.
Is like auto kills you, which is a dope skill. And then she did it to Aizen. They had a whole setup where it was a plan with, I don't remember all the moving parts. There was a bunch of moving parts. And then Sweet Fawn was able to touch Aizen twice. They were like, we did it, blah, blah, blah. And they kind of celebrate. And then Aizen just overpowers that shit.
Yeah, you see it disappear. So prior to that, one of the most iconic moments is Sweet Fawn versus Yoruichi.
Yeah.
And Yoruichi, the goddess of Flash, they go back and forth because Yoruichi, I guess, used to be
her teacher or something.
She used to be her teacher.
She was the captain, I think.
I think she was. So she was the captain. She parades around as a black cat for most of Bleach's beginning, but then you find out that she's actually one of the most powerful characters in the entire show.
She's also mad sexy. I don't know if y'all are into that, but I remember she walks around as this cat for fucking 50 episodes, and then she's hanging out with Ichigo in a sauna, and then randomly turns into this badass bitch, and then Ichigo is like 15 and his nose starts bleeding. And then she calls him a virgin. And I'm like, what am I watching right now? Should my pants be on or off?
It just transformed. It just completely transformed.
It really does.
Yeah, Yoruichi is cool as shit, but she had a fight with Soifan where she was being poked by that stupid nail thing that Soifan has, and it was putting the butterfly on her body. And Yoruichi was like, I know how your ability works. If you touch me again, I will die. And this has been demonstrated by Soifan a couple times on hollows and other enemies where she touches them twice and they just evaporate. They become nothingness. So the fear was there for Yoruichi when she was fighting her, but she never let herself get touched twice in the same spot at any point during the fight, and then she overpowers Soifan. When she does this against Aizen, she actually gets the 2 touches off, the double tap, but he's an asshole because he allowed it to happen. He told her straight up, abilities between Shinigamis are really just who's more powerful. It doesn't even matter. So he gets the second touch, and he overpowers it with his Ryatsu, and nothing happens to him, and then he just cuts them down. But I was going to talk about Aizen's other moment after his betrayal, and he pieces Toshiro really badly. He also pieces as we call him, the dog captain, Kimomura.
Yeah,
it's the first time you see him do the Way of Destruction, but he does like the craziest one, Hado 99 Black Coffin.
Yeah.
He does Hado 99 Black Coffin against Kimomura, and mind you,
I called it Black Box. At the start of the episode, I said Hado 99 Black Box, but I think it is called Black Coffin.
Obviously Black Coffin sounds fucking insane, but he does Black Coffin against Kimomura. Mind you, Kimomura had also used his Bankai at this point. So you have this gigantic knight made out of like steel and all this shit that he controls with like whatever Kimomura does, the knight does. And he's attacking Aizen, and Aizen does that. And again, another one shot. It's just you get hit one time by me and you're absolutely destroyed. So Aizen is ridiculous from the gate. He's beating captains in one hit, and it shows you, okay, this guy is the villain and he's the real deal. It starts to make you wonder how
did he get so fucking strong.
Yeah, you wonder how he got so strong. You also wonder if he's taking out captains with one hit, who the fuck could even beat him? Obviously, everyone thinks about Captain Commander, as the initial thought, like, oh, obviously Captain Commander is the person that's going to be able to stop him because he's just bodying everybody else. Like none of the captains are even close to beating him. And then you probably think, oh, maybe Byakuya, because Byakuya clearly is stronger than some of the other captains. Like the captains are not equal. Let's be clear.
No, they are not.
They are not equal. There's definitely a power gap between them. Zaraki is one of the most powerful. Byakuya is one of the most powerful. And then you have the two that Captain Commander directly trained. Ukitake.
Those two are shit. I love those two.
They're really Kiyoraku and Ukitake. They're
the one
really
that's sick.
cool.
He's like always coughing and shit. That's how I knew he was broken, by the way. Just like I mentioned Itachi, I knew that as soon as I saw he was sick, I was like, that guy's going to be unfair.
Yep. Ukitake is ridiculous. And he was directly trained by Captain Commander. There was that one moment early on where those two were about to fight him.
Yep.
And Captain Commander, this is the first time you see him transform his fucking cane into a sword. He takes off his Goatee 13 white cloak and he just has his raw chest. He does a Master Roshi. It's literally a Master Roshi. It's taken straight from Dragon Ball. He stands up straight. So he's like pretty tall and he's just covered in muscles. He's just one of the most muscular anime characters I've ever seen. Like muscles everywhere. And you couldn't tell before because he's always both hands on his cane, hunched over like an old man. But you knew he was broken. He has a really long beard. He literally is just Roshi in Bleach.
Pretty much.
And the two captains, they literally say to themselves, we're going to die, but we're doing what's right, basically, by fighting you. Like, but we are accepting that we are going to die. And they don't even show you the fight, like the fight between, if there even was a fight. They don't actually show it to you. Luckily, everything comes to light so that way they stop the fight, but they were going to die.
That's what we need from filler. I think that this is a problem I have with a lot of anime. I mean, everybody hates filler, right? But filler could be dope if they applied it correctly. Imagine if one day they needed to do a filler arc. They're like, okay, we know we need to waste 20 episodes of time. So then they go, let's just talk to Taikubo, get some notes, and make a filler arc about these two, and then we'll just show this fight that was off screen. We'll just like go have a flashback and show this fucking off-screen fight.
That would have been cool, especially if they showed him training them and how they got strong in their bankais and stuff.
Yeah, like that would be cool filler.
That would be cool filler. Filler that actually has to do with something that happened canonically. Like that would have been really good.
Like if more anime did that, they just applied filler in a way in like points of interest instead of just, I don't know, fucking Vegeta going to the mall with his son. I don't want to see Vegeta at the mall with Trunks and Bulma. Like that's not what I want to see. It did. It was like episode 2 of Dragon Ball Super.
Okay.
Well, Vegeta, Trunks, and Bulma fucking go to the mall and shit.
Yeah, we'll definitely pass on I hate filler, honestly, in all anime, unless it's Bleach has some good filler. I will say that. Bleach filler, and I'm not talking about the shit where they play baseball. I'm talking about the Bleach filler that are actual arcs, like when the Zanpakuto strike back and they're all trying to kill their owners. There was that one.
I know there's one. It's called like the Hands of Time or something. I think I'm way off, but I feel like it has something to do with time.
I forget. Yeah, I forget. There was a lot of Bleach fillers, but Bleach filler are pretty good overall, I would say. I did watch most of them, but I can't really remember them that well because at this point I only want to focus on the things that pertain to the main story.
Yeah.
But so then you get Ichigo versus Byakuya, which we touched on a little bit earlier. That fight is insane because one is Ichigo's Bankai reveal. It's also Byakuya talking shit and saying how you'll never catch me off guard again. Because at first Ichigo comes behind him and, you know, your back is never supposed to be to someone in a sword fight. So when Ichigo catches Byakuya from behind, he's like, you'll never do that again. And then Ichigo does it again. And he stabs Byakuya straight through. And Byakuya gets pissed. That's when he starts turning up on Ichigo. And you start getting some of the most ridiculous shit from Byakuya's Bankai. Scene of the massacre, where he changes the entire environment.
The names of these techniques, dog.
I remember I watched this episode so many times because of how fucking cool it was when all of the pink swords start to appear around in a cascade and they're like stacked up and they're rotating. Tornado. Yeah, they rotate. It creates like a coliseum of swords. And you know that they're all made out of cherry blossoms?
Yep.
They're all made out of cherry blossoms. And at one point, he even says to Ichigo, don't worry, I'm not going to have all these attack you at once. But I could. And he's like fucking Ichigo up in this thing called Scene in the Massacre. At one point, they get really close. Their swords are clashing. And Byakuya puts his one finger out. And he's like, way of destruction, whatever. And he shoots this white light. It's literally called white lightning. He puts a hole in Ichigo. Like he literally puts a hole in Ichigo as they're fighting. Then he like puts his hand up and one of the many thousands of swords that are just rotating around him as an arena comes down to him and he grabs it and stabs Ichigo in the foot. I think that's all like one act.
Does
like,
Ichigo go hollow mode in that fight?
He does. That happens after all
he does. Yeah. And then he starts fucking swinging the sword.
Yeah, it gets real bad. So Byakuya is turning up on Ichigo. He's doing all this shit. He's white lightning him. He's used the scene of the massacre. He's grabbed the sword out of it, stabbed Ichigo in the foot to keep him still. And at some point, Ichigo's hollow starts to take over, and it gets bad. I mean, the hollow just absolutely wrecks him, as it does everyone. The hollow's undefeated in all of Bleach, for what I understand. I don't think the hollow has any contest. I also think the hollow destroys people. Like, I know there was part of the Bounto arc. That was another one of the filler arcs that was pretty good. The Bounto who like absorbed the Rietsu and stuff like that. They have dolls that they used to attack. Anyway, in the Bounto arc, Ichigo's hollow comes out and it's swinging the sword in circles and all of that too. Every time Ichigo trains against his hollow, it says you don't even know how to use your own fucking sword, and it's showing him how to use the bandages that are on the sword and swinging it in a circle and all of that. But yeah, it comes out against Byakuya and it ruins him. It pretty much brings the fight to the point where, unfortunately, Byakuya has to go into his ultimate technique. The cherry blossoms become like these huge wings of energy, Rietsu or whatever, and his sword gets really big with energy, and they have a clash, him and Ichigo wins, but crazily enough, they clash, and Byakuya's sword breaks. Like, his sword actually breaks. He just has a hilt at the end of it.
That, once again, that moment was so dope. Him versus Iraqi was so dope. Once again, it does create a weird feeling where it's like, man, how's Ichigo beating these guys?
Yeah, he shouldn't be able to win.
He should not be winning.
Yeah. And the only reason that I'll give him the Byakuya fight, even though he still should have won, is because the hollow, it's kind of how the hollow came out and it weakened Byakuya quite a bit. It drew blood on him and everything. It was too much from the handle. He did the Black Gatsuga Tensho on him.
Yeah.
He couldn't really defend it. It reminded me of Naruto versus Pain, where Naruto really does lose the Pain fight. Like, perfect Sage Mode Naruto gets bodied by Pain, and people seem to forget that when they say that Naruto beat Pain. Like, not really.
Naruto goes, I think, 6 tails.
He does go 6 tails.
6 tails. And that's the first time. Well, I guess technically second time he goes 6 tails, because then he goes 6 tails versus Jiraiya, or was that 4 tails?
No, it was just 4.
4. Okay, so I think that's the first time he goes 6 tails.
Yeah, it is. So Naruto in perfect Sage Mode gets absolutely bodied by Pain. And this is just a little aside because I want to draw this comparison in Bleach. But he gets bodied by this demon. This demon comes out of Naruto, and it beats the shit out of Pain, and Pain's all weakened and he's not in tip-top shape anymore because the fucking demon has destroyed him so bad. And then obviously Naruto, after that happens, and after Naruto's dad comes and helps him to regain his sanity and all of that, he then beats Pain, who's been weakened so much now. The fight's completely different, and he catches him with the Rasengan. Then he talk no jutsu's the real Pain, and it's this whole thing. Essentially, the same type of thing happens in Bleach multiple times, where Ichigo wins fights because of his hollow. Ukiura, we'll get to that, but Ukiura, what happens to him is tragic, and what happens to Byakuya, I feel like, is also the same thing, where essentially you lost because the hollow took over and just overwhelmed you.
That hollow is OD.
Yeah, but yeah, we talk about Ichigo getting the shit beat out of him by Grimjaw, and just realizing that the Espada, you stand no chance against them at all. This is before he learns about his own hollow mask, though, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, this is because that's when like the whole visors and stuff get introduced.
Yeah.
Because just to step back real quick, something that was cool. This is something that was cool about Soul Society, I guess, and it added to the mystery. There was already the mystery of there was the one to save Rukia. Then there was the mystery of like who killed Aizen, who killed this captain. But then there was also the mystery of Ichigo's like hollow mask, because he had this mask, and then like he like tore it off or whatever. He had the mask, and I remember the one kid, I don't remember his name, but the kid threw the mask away. But then Ichigo had the mask again, like it like came back to him. Yeah, and there was like this whole mystery around this mask and kind of what it meant or whatever.
Yeah, the mask came over his face when he was fighting Byakuya in that fight. Like, you see it start to form on Ichigo's face.
Yeah,
as he beats the shit out of Byakuya in hollow.
And isn't there a fight? I don't remember which fight. It's so blurry where he like the mask starts to form and then he rips it off before it forms.
Yes, and his one eye is black and yellow.
Yeah,
it's like black. The whole background of the eye is black, and then you see the middle part of it. The eyeball itself is yellow. But yeah, there's a part where Ichigo does try to reject the hollow because he's scared of it. He doesn't like it.
Yeah,
the hollow starts talking. It's like, let me take over. He's like, no.
Yep.
And he tries to reject it, and so he does do partial transformations where the hollow mask is only when he first starts to do the hollow transformations, it literally only covers 25% of his face. Like, it would be super small. And he starts training to learn how to use the hollow mask.
Yeah, that's what like the visors. I can't remember all the names. I just remember there's like a girl with like blonde hair, and there's a couple other people.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, and they're ridiculous because they're Shinigamis who also happen to have the ability to use their hollow form, and it's a crazy amp. The holification is a crazy power amp, like at least 20 times power amp. It's ridiculous. It gives Ichigo access to the Black Getsuga Tensho, or like it amps up his Black Getsuga Tensho, I should say.
And this is when the start of Ichigo being everything you could be in the series of Bleach begins. Because as you will find out, as Bleach continues, not only is he a Shinigami and a Hollow, he's everything the fuck else.
He's a Quincy. He's a Fullbringer. He's literally everything. He's the main antagonist.
Every fucking power you could have in Bleach,
yep,
Ichigo has it.
Ichigo is it. Yeah, so that whole thing with the holification is huge. Him training to learn how to use the mask. At first, he could only use it for like 6 seconds, I think. It was something ridiculous like that, where he can only holify himself for 6 seconds. And so he gets the shit beat out of him by Grimjaw. Grimjaw destroys him. He wants to get stronger, of course, to protect his friends and all that nonsense. And the next time he fights Grimjaw, he activates the mask and he starts to overwhelm Grimjaw. Grimjaw's like actually shocked. He's caught off guard by Ichigo because he remember beating the shit out of this guy who couldn't even do anything. At one point, he was holding Ichigo up with just his punches. He was punching him so bad.
Yeah.
Ichigo was being held up by the punches. And they started to play that sad music with the piano. Like that really sad piano music. As like Ichigo is just getting punched constantly for what
it's like fucking Sadness and Sorrow from Naruto.
It's so sad. He's getting this shit, and as he's getting punched, he starts thinking about his life. Ichigo starts contemplating his life, and there's blood falling. His face is all swollen.
Oh, shit. You know it's bad when you get beat into a fucking flashback.
Yo, Ichigo got destroyed by Grimjaw. Grimjaw's laughing too as he's punching him in the air and beating him up.
Grimjaw Jaga Jack.
Grimjaw Jaga Jacks. But yes, anyway, back to the point. So Ichigo starts to holify against Grimjaw, and he catches him off guard. He's turning up on Grimjaw, but remember, he only has like a few seconds in this form. So while he's doing all this, Grimjaw's pretty much on the defensive. And he hits Grimjaw with the Black Getsuga Tensho, and it kind of burns his arms. I remember seeing Grimjaw's arms being like scorched.
Yep.
And of course, as he's about to deliver not a final blow, but like a really good hit, I guess, a really powerful hit, the hollow mask breaks. It just breaks.
Yep.
And Grimjaw's eyes light up because he knows, like, oh, your little fucking bullshit transformation is all gone now. Like I can fuck you up again, and then he fucks him up again.
That was hot.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually like Grimjaw a lot. I thought that he was going to be a Vegeta for the show because
I think a lot of people did, man. Like, Grimjaw was cool.
Yeah, he starts off as evil, but
yeah, Grimjaw was cool. Grimjaw was definitely really cool.
Yeah, here's that one scene where Rukia uses her Shikai to freeze him, and she doesn't move away from him after she frees him. So you see him staring directly at her, like he was coming towards her, and she froze him where he's flying in, and she doesn't move, so you just think like, okay, everything's fine. But then he crushes through the ice and grips her by the neck and starts choking the shit out of her. And it's so scary because you don't usually see people breaking out of ice like that outside of course, Aizen. But you don't see people breaking out of the ice like that. And yeah, it's just one of those scary moments where he's like, you think that weak-ass attack could stop me? Like, are you kidding?
Yeah, it's crazy how the Espada, I feel like Aizen must have been just, I mean, we already know Aizen was OD, but the Espada were so fucking strong. Like, yes. I feel like all of the Espada, like every single Espada was just like portrayed to be way stronger than most of the captains.
Yes.
Like, the captains just were not on their
level.
I
want to talk about this for a second. The Heko Mundo arc was scary to me when I was a kid because Ichigo was going to Heko Mundo to rescue Orihime, and you had already seen some of the Espada in action. I remember thinking to myself, holy shit, this is when they first arrived at Heko Mundo and they started fighting against some of the regular Arrancar. They were fighting against regular Arrancar. They were numbered, and their numbers told you how powerful they were or whatever. They struggled against them. And when you realize that the Espada are like hundreds of times stronger than them, I kept thinking to myself, there's no way they're going to do well here. Like, there's no way this ends well because the Espada were so, like you said, the main characters, Ishida, Chad, Ichigo, they were nowhere near the power of the Espada. And they struggled with regular Arrancar. So every time they ran into someone who was Espada level, or they even ran into Arrancar that had triple numbers. And if you had triple numbers, it meant that you used to be an Espada, but you got kicked out.
Yep.
So they ran into some people who were like prior Espada, and they obviously struggled really bad with them. And I was like, there's no way they're ever going to be able to get out of here alive. Like, how is this going to work out?
Remember when they were just running through the desert and there was like a fucking I don't know, just nonsense happening.
Yeah, like
but they
a
were
sand-
struggling. Like they were
sand-
struggling.
a fucking worm.
Yeah,
that was
sandworm.
a hollow worm thing or whatever. Yeah, there was a lot of rants in that arc, but the Nell portion of it where she used to be the number 3 Espada.
Yep.
And you see it tattooed on her
That
body.
was a fucking reveal.
Yeah, that was scary. She used to be
just runs around as like a little dumbass kid.
Yep, because she lost her memory because the number 5 Espada back attacked her, snuck her, and it made her have amnesia. But then she gets her memory back later on, and she becomes a full-grown woman with huge boobs and all this other stuff. And she beats the shit out of him. She helps to like fight against the Espada because at that point she had turned good from hanging around Ichigo and them for so long. But yeah, that part was cool. The Nell reveal because you knew that she was something powerful and something that was gonna do more. But
yeah,
you
just didn't know what was happening at the time.
Yes, you had no idea. Then come to find out, I was like, oh shit, she's a number 3 Espada, like prior to her losing her memory and everything. So I actually have in one of my notes, it literally says Hekomundo arc, fear of overpowered villains. It like literally just how ridiculous they were.
It didn't feel like there was any realistic way. And to be fair, I mean, I don't know, there was no realistic way for them to win. And this is where some of the problems with Bleach come in, because we both like Bleach a lot, right? But some of the writing falls apart because there was no way for Ichigo to overcome this. However, what happens, Frazier?
So what I want to add to what you're saying, it's one thing that we already knew the Espada were more powerful than Ichigo. Like he was nowhere near close to Grimjaw and Ukiura and those guys. You also have to think that the ultimate villain is still Aizen in this whole situation.
Yep.
So even if somehow, some way, he can deal with all 10 Espada, right? It won't matter because the fucking guy who made them is so much stronger than them and the captains. You already saw him one piece a bunch of captains. So
at this point, do we already know about Aizen's fucking genjutsu?
Yeah, you knew about it.
You know about this, right?
Yeah, I think that he even kind of explains it a little earlier on that he had shown his sword to a bunch of people or some shit. Like when he first joined, he showed his sword to everyone and he showed it release and he said it was a water Zanpakuto, which was just obviously a big lie. But yeah, Aizen had already shown his Zanpakuto to the entire Soul Society, and we knew about his little genjutsu tricks. That's how he created the perfect the perfect illusion of him being dead. So we should talk a little bit about Aizen and how absurd he is because he's my favorite anime villain pretty much. I don't really like anyone as much as I like Aizen. Madara is up there too, but I think as far as because Aizen's in the show way more.
He is.
And so you get to see a lot more Aizen.
He's in it from basically the beginning. Not the very beginning, but basically the beginning.
Basically in the very start of it. And he's a traitor and everything like that. But his power, let's just discuss how ridiculous he is. So his sword is essentially genjutsu, but it's better. And the reason why it's better is because you only have to look at his sword to be caught in it. That's the first criteria. And once you are in it, he can completely control all 5 of your senses. So that shit is wild. Like all 5 of your senses are completely controlled. It can create illusions that are so realistic that there's no way to ever tell if they're not an illusion outside of touching the sword yourself. You have to be touching his sword to know that it's an illusion. Anything else?
I feel like there were so many fights that they did where they were fighting, like they would have 7 fucking captains and lieutenants fighting Aizen.
Yep.
And like, oh well.
That was one of the most iconic moments in Bleach is when Aizen fights against the captains and the Vizards. At the same time, they jump him.
Yep.
And they do so much shit to try to beat him, and he starts just ODing on them. He just starts beating the shit, and they're all talking about how don't get caught by his Kyoka Suigetsu and all this other nonsense because some of them, I guess, hadn't seen the sword or whatever.
Caught.
Yeah, he and then Gen also explains to them that Aizen is not strong because of just his sword. Like as he's killing these fucking Vizards and captains, he's slashing them in half and using their weapons against them. The one guy with the whip, he literally wraps him up in a whip and slashes the guy across the chest. As he's
that's what people were starting to think. People were saying like, "Oh man, it's just his sword." Like,
that's not his only hacks. His other hacks is that this fucker is so powerful. He's just raw power. There's even a whole arc dedicated to just the Aizen betrayal, and it's called Back to the Pendulum. And essentially, it's when Urahara discovers who Aizen really is. Way back in the day before he gets kicked out of Soul Society, because there's this whole scandal that happens. But Aizen essentially chose the Vizard captain who used to be a captain of the Gold T-13, Shinji, I think is his name. He chooses him as who he wants to be his captain, because normally a captain chooses who they want to be their vice captain. But Aizen told him, like he told Shinji, I actually chose you. It's the other way around because you don't trust me. And because you don't trust me, you never wanted to learn anything about me. You never cared to know what I was up to. You kind of just like completely let your guard down because of your disdain for me. And that's the reason why I've been able to operate completely. You never really got to know me. So my illusion, because he created, basically Aizen created an illusion of himself that was perfect, like a perfect vice captain type of guy, you know, a good person. And the whole time he was doing a whole bunch of shit behind the scenes. He's like, you never realized that that wasn't me this whole time because you never got to know who I was. So when anything would have been off, you would have never known.
I remember that.
I chose you. Yeah, he tells him like, I chose you. So he has this perfect hypnosis that pretty much works on everyone, including Captain Commander. And Captain Commander is the first person who says, like, I know how to deal with this. Like, I grab you and you can't, you know, a delusion. I know I'm grabbing you. He says, I know I'm touching you right now because Aizen tries to pretend like, oh, are you sure it's me you're holding right now? And he's like, yes, actually I do because I know how your sword works. If I'm holding the sword, like the illusion is dispelled. So, you know, he catches Aizen, but it doesn't do anything because no one can really beat Aizen, apparently.
Nope.
But yeah, he's so powerful. Oh, so Back to the Pendulum has a part in it at the end where there's a captain of the School of Magic, basically the Kido School. He's a really powerful, really powerful guy, and he's hanging out with Urahara. When they found out that Aizen has been going around transforming people as an experiment to holify them, they find Aizen in the middle of it. And at one point, Aizen's like, okay, you found me out, but like, what are you fucking going to do about it? Essentially, like, you can't prove it. So he starts to walk away. Like, literally just Aizen starts to walk away, back turn to Urahara and the captain of the Kido School. And the guy's like, watch out, I'm going to use like Hado 90. And it's like lightning dragon cannon, thunder dragon cannon, some crazy shit. Mind you, he does an incantation for it. So it's amped. It's like amped to the fucking gods. He does the full incantation for it. And he shoots out this gigantic, huge Kamehameha wave that's covered in thunder. It looks cool as shit. It is one of the coolest looking attacks ever. And Urahara, I'm pretty sure he jumps out the way. Like, it's that crazy. He literally has to jump out of the way of the attack. And it travels towards Aizen, who has his back turned. Without even turning his back, Aizen just kind of looks to the side slightly and says, Bakuro Hachizoichi, Danku. And this fucking mirror wall comes up. And mind you, what I just said was a way of binding number 90, I believe it's called. It creates a mirror wall that completely blocks this Hado 90 or whatever the fuck the guy shot at him, this high class ass attack. And it completely blocks it without Aizen using an incantation. And the guy, after Aizen disappears, the guy's like, how is that possible? A vice captain just blocked like my extremely high level Hado attack with the forbidden Danku with no incantation. Like, it's a big deal. Like, Aizen is
You're making me want to reread it. It's been a while since I reread it. And so I'm fuzzy on some details, but I remember this. Mm-hmm. But if you didn't just explain it, like, I would have never remembered. You know what I mean? Like,
because I watched that scene. I watched that scene so much because I wanted to hear how Aizen said Danku. Like, I literally, if you just go back and watch on YouTube, that one part where Aizen does Danku, it is so fucking cool. And then you find out Danku nullifies any way of destruction that's like less than 90. So if you do anything that's less than 90, it automatically is nullified by that attack, or that way of binding anyway. And he did it without incantation and blocked an incantation spell from the strongest magic user in Soul Society, basically. And
I remember that.
It was crazy. It was wild. He doesn't even turn around to do it. He, with his back turn, says it, and it just comes up. And then when the glass shatters, Aizen's not there anymore. And yeah, Aizen is so ridiculous. It has nothing to do with just his sword. I should say it has nothing to do. It is not just his sword. He's overall in Kido. He's a Kido master. He's obviously a master with sword fighting. And then his sword is obviously very, very, very powerful. His endurance is crazy too. Aizen, I don't even know if the right word is tanks, but he did tank an attack from Captain Commander. Like, Captain Commander gave up his arm, I think.
His endurance is crazy. His durability, whatever you want to call it, it's wild. I mean, Aizen, he doesn't get defeated. I mean, to be fair, this is after he becomes Butterfly Eyes and all that other stuff. But like, when he gets defeated at the, like, I guess original end of Bleach, like, it's, you know, after the Mugetsu transformation. But like, Aizen goes undefeated for all of Bleach.
No one even comes close to making him sweat. Every time he's in an altercation with anyone, it doesn't even end in a slight where he feels threatened. He's always okay. So when the captains and everybody come to Hekamundo to start saving the day, because that's how this whole thing gets resolved, is that the fucking captains have to show up.
That was the point. That was the whole point we went on this extra Aizen rant, was how the fuck does Hekamundo end? Ichigo is outclassed.
The captains come to save the day. And when the captains show up, at one point, the Espada are all drawn into a meeting with Aizen, and they're all, you know, talking about how there's intruders here now. What are we going to do? And Aizen says another cocky thing that I love. He says, members of the Espada, our enemies are at our gates. But as long as you are with me, we are invincible. Now let us have tea. And the scene just ends. And the Espada are just fucking served tea.
Oh,
like,
God.
What is going on? Like, what is this guy? Like, who the fuck is this guy? He's like, all of these people have shown up the Hecko Mundo at this point, and they're like, yeah, we're going to start fucking shit up. We're going to start turning the tables. And Aizen's like, our enemies are at our gates, but as long as you're with me, we are invincible. Like, what type of shit? Also, the part where Grimjaw thought that he was going to challenge Aizen, and and then they have a spiritual pressure battle. Well, it's not really a battle. Grimjaw challenges Aizen at that little meeting thing, because I guess he felt like, you made all of us, but how do we know that you're actually stronger than us?
Yep.
So he does the typical thing that, you know, the one, there's always that one guy. There's always that one guy. And he challenges Aizen. And Aizen literally out the corner of it, he just flicks one eye. He like looks towards Grimjaw, not fully. He doesn't give him a full face turn towards him. He doesn't like fully give him his attention. He kind of just like, he kind of just moves his eye from like the middle to the end. Like he just looks at him, and
Ryetsu crush.
The Ryetsu just destroys. He cannot even breathe. Grimjaw talks about how he could not breathe.
That Ryetsu crush shit was sick. Like whenever they would do it, when you would come up against somebody, and
that effect.
Yeah, and then like it would look like gravity, or
it would almost and the screen would shake and it would get all fuzzy. It happened with Zaraki too. Zaraki, when he showed up, it was like doom, like you knew some bad shit was coming, like something really powerful was around. Captain's always had that effect, and Aizen's was on a different level because he did that to Grimjaw, who had beat the shit out of Ichigo. So just to put it in perspective, always, because that's what these great manga writers do, they wanted to show you this guy is way stronger than the main character, but he's nothing to Aizen. He's nothing. He's less than nothing. But yeah, Aizen's Ryetsu is on another level. He can cripple you. And also, you have to think about how powerful he had to be and how much control he has to have to use his Ryetsu only to crush Grimjaw in that moment.
Yeah, because the other people were fine.
Everyone was unaffected by Grimjaw. It specifically collapsed Grimjaw only. Like, shit like that is so cool to me.
Yeah, he's a top tier villain. Aizen's legit. Yeah. We talked about before, just Aizen stopped Ichigo's theme.
He did.
I love that so much. He just stopped the whole music.
Yeah, Aizen against Ichigo and Renji when they were both. Well, I know Ichigo was in Bankai, and they did their little team attack against Aizen, and Aizen just one-fingered Ichigo's sword.
One finger is too much. He hit him with the Super Saiyan Goku, yo.
He did. He one-fingers it, and it completely stops the entire music from playing. It stops the sword. He breaks Renji's sword, fucking slashes it. Like, he just doesn't deal with them in any reasonable way. He completely disregards their powers and all of that. And then later on, towards the end of the show, when Ichigo fights Aizen, you know, when he's all butterfly mode and nonsense, Aizen goes to swing at Ichigo when he's in his god form, and Ichigo returns the favor and grabs Aizen's sword with his bare hand.
Yeah. By the way, what did you think about Butterfly Aizen?
I hate it. It reminds me of the Final Fantasy VII. Actually, most Final Fantasy games.
Basically every Final
Fantasy game. Let me not cap here. Every Final Fantasy game ends the same way, essentially, where the main villain, who usually looks really fucking cool, becomes something that looks so fucking
like
stupid.
Some weird monster looking thing.
Yes, Sephiroth looks really dumb in Safer Sephiroth mode. Is like Bizarro Sephiroth, and then there's Safer Sephiroth. He looks dumb. And Aizen, when he becomes the butterfly Aizen with the long hair, he looks dumb. I don't even like Aizen with long hair. I don't even like that.
Yeah, same.
Like when Aizen gets long hair, I hate it.
Yeah, same. The whole the butterfly eyes and stuff kind of turned me off. I also felt like, I can't remember specifically, so I might be remembering this wrong. You can probably correct me. When he did that, didn't he abandon, when he got that form, didn't he essentially not have access to his genjutsu and shit anymore?
So he fused with the Hogyoko, and his sword disappeared at one point. Like, he lost his blade. His actual Zanpakuto disappeared at the end of the fight. But it's not that he lost his Kyoka Suigetsu. At the time, you don't know this, and Aizen didn't know this either. He says it in the like 1,000-Year Blood War arc when he's fused with the chair. He's like, I've fused with my sword. The Hogyoko has caused me to act. I am now Kyoka Suigetsu myself. Like, I am it. It is always active. And now you don't have to like look at a sword or anything because it's fused with me. I'm always putting people in genjutsu whenever I feel like it, essentially, is what he can do. But when he's fighting Ichigo, the thing is that Ichigo had never seen his Shikai. That was one of the things that everyone thought that Ichigo was going to beat Aizen because he had never seen
Yeah, I remember that.
Aizen Shikai. That was a big deal. It was like every one of us has seen his Shikai, so we will all fall prey to Kyoka Sugetsu. You're the only one who hasn't seen it. But at the end of the day, when he's fighting Ichigo, illusions and shit like that clearly weren't going to matter because Ichigo was so much more powerful than Aizen at that point. Like he had just done a hyperbolic time chamber, and he had gotten stronger, and Aizen had stopped using his illusions, which took away. And I know where you're going with this because I agree. It took away a lot of the cool things about Aizen.
Yes,
It turned him into basically like a brute.
He just became, instead of being cunning and
calculated,
he just was, because he was always more powerful. He did the thing where he was like about blah blah blah. It's about power, and he always showed I'm stronger than you. But in addition to being stronger than you, he was calculating and cunning and clever, and it was just interesting. Yes. But then he just became Butterfly Strongman, and
he started his spiritual pressure was so strong that it made humans evaporate.
Yes.
Like he was walking around the city, and anyone who came close to him literally would evaporate. They couldn't deal with his spiritual pressure. Ichimaru again had a betrayal moment that was really. I just feel like it came out of nowhere. I feel like it was not planned.
Same.
I think Gin being a double agent, not even a double agent, because he wasn't working with the Goatee 13, but he had gotten close to Aizen supposedly to get revenge for Rangiku, the vice captain of Toshiro with the big boobs. He had gotten close to Aizen so that he could exact his revenge at some point, which took hundreds of years apparently for him to finally have his opening. I don't know how is it that you needed Aizen to become a butterfly and evolve for you to be. That's the only opening you got.
It really did. It did feel like one of those things where how early we were saying there was things put in place that we definitely think were planned.
Yes.
Where the Gen thing,
I don't think that was planned.
I feel like Gen was just evil. And then one day Kubo was like, I don't know, I got to throw a wrench in this somewhere. And I guess Gen's a good guy.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like there was build up to Gen being, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like, it seems like this chapter was written the night before. That's what it felt like to me. It gave me very much the way Naruto started to end those last chapters where it was like, he's writing this shit the night before. I felt like Tai Kubo was writing some of that shit. So Gen betrays Aizen, and you come to find out that his Bankai, Kamishini no Yari, which is like ancient god killing lance, isn't actually what he told each
fire name.
Oh, the name is, and it's cool because it's called god killing.
Yeah.
So like, and at that point, Aizen had become a god. So it's very poetic. That's all great. He lied to Ichigo earlier when they fought. He said that, my Bankai makes it where my sword can travel 500 times the speed of sound. And there's this one, and mind you, that feat is wild. Like that just scales Bleach so high. We're going to talk about power scaling because Bleach, we started out talking about that, how your friend told you that Bleach characters are pretty much up there with some of DBZ characters. And I agree. There are some Bleach characters who just scale wild. Like pretty wild. Like 500 times the speed of sound, dog. 500 times the speed of sound. That is crazy. So anyway, Gen releases Bankai against Ichigo. And when he does it, he slices the entire city in half. There's this scene where he's standing on top of this little rock, and Ichigo's looking at him, and he calls his Bankai out, and his sword is really tiny. And then you just see it like a laser kind of come out and slice everything. Ichigo barely dodges it, and his hollow mask is fucked up. He's bleeding, and he's like, holy shit, I don't even know what just happened. I couldn't really see it, but I just reacted on instinct, and I blocked the attack. And Gen was like, wow, that was actually really good. You reacted on instinct and stopped yourself from getting cut in half. I meant to cut you in half. And the whole city is like, the buildings are sliding down. And he said, for reference of what just happened, he goes, and he claps. And Ichigo doesn't know what it means. He's like, my Bankai is 500 times that speed that you just heard that noise. So I was like, come on. Like, what type of shit is that? Like, what type of shit is that?
Bleach knows how to talk some shit.
Yes, like when it comes to shit talking, there is no anime or manga better. You guys, you can try. Let us know if you think that there's one that's better. But I cannot find anything outside of maybe Death Note where they shit. But like Death Note isn't as long, so there's not as much chance for him to shit talk. All of Bleach is shit talk. All of it.
They be ranting.
Yes. So yeah, again, that's his fake Bankai. His real Bankai is actually kind of corny to me. It's just he can leave his sword inside of you, and it's poison, and it kills you. So he leaves a piece of his sword inside of Aizen, and it kills Aizen because it poisons him. But I just think that first of all, in Game of Thrones, they call poison a woman's weapon. So that's the first thing. Let's just call it what it is in Game of Thrones. They call that anytime somebody uses poison, the way they say that like Robert Baratheon was killed, they call it a woman's weapon. It's them trying to say, and I obviously don't agree with this because I'm not a fucking sexist, but they're basically trying to say it's not something that's very powerful, or it's not something that a man would do, right? Him using poison on Aizen was so random to me because Aizen at this point has blocked Captain Commander using he tributed his arm. He gave up his arm to do a crazy Hado that was like super high level. It might have been Hado 100. It was something crazy, but I know Captain Commander sacrificed his actual arm to do it, and it was a crazy fire explosion. He survived that already, like borderline unscathed. Aizen jumped out of that flame, and I remember Ichigo met him when he jumped out of it. But the point is that Aizen wasn't really like too damaged after Captain Commander did this crazy ass Hado spell. And you have somebody
we know
saying,
how OD Captain Commander is because especially because later on they show us. I actually don't think we ever see it. I don't think it's in the anime yet, right? When we see Captain Commander,
yeah, I don't think we see it.
That's not in the anime yet. That's just manga.
I don't think so. Yeah, the Bankai and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
So we know how OD Captain Commander is.
Yes, he's ridiculous. So Aizen has survived a lot of crazy things already. Like a lot of crazy things. For you to tell me that a guy who's been under him this entire time, since he was a little boy, because Gin was actually with Aizen since he was a child. You want to tell me that this guy developed some poison that would kill Aizen in his evolved state at that? Like, I could have seen if he did that to Aizen and that caused Aizen to evolve again, because that's kind of how the Hogyoku works. Every time Aizen is pretty much threatened or something happens, he evolves further to get stronger, and it just didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. It felt like Taikubo did an ass pull, and that's why we both stand behind that. You're writing this chapter the night before. This is not planned out at all. This whole revenge arc for Gen's childhood friend, it just seemed so...
More Bleach went on, the more it felt like ass pull after ass pull.
Yeah.
And Ichigo has some great moments where he does win, but then a lot of Ichigo's moments are he gets inexplicable power-up, either hollow form or even the Mugetsu thing. I remember not liking the Mugetsu thing when I saw it, because first of all, I just thought it was random. I was like, he has another power-up. Now he has long black hair. Cool. He looks like every other anime character.
He went to a hyperbolic time chamber, and he was training with his dad or something like that. His dad was holding this dimension from, it will kill you if you stay in there too long. Like, this train comes and it literally eviscerates you. So his dad was stopping that from happening, but it was like destroying his dad or some shit like that. And it gave him the time so that he could train in this dimension and get powerful while time wasn't really passing in a regular world. Yeah. So they didn't. I never liked the idea of hyperbolic time chambers. They're not even good in Dragon Ball Z. They're like,
I think it's cool. Like the first time you're like, oh shit, this is cool. But then it just gets out. It's like,
but it's always going to be bad from a legitimate writing standpoint, because essentially what you've done is you've power scaled your main characters rapidly to deal with how powerful you made the villain. You wrote yourself into a corner. So you wrote a villain who was too powerful, and you realize we don't have a real way to deal with this, so we're just going to hyperbolic time chamber it. And the same thing I feel like happened to Naruto when Madara kills Sasuke and Naruto dies, and then Hagoromo, the Sage of Six Paths, comes out of nowhere and he gives them this ridiculous power up. Like, time's not passing when he's talking to them. He's talking about Kaguya and all that shit. It's the same thing. It's this, I'm just going to randomly overpower the fuck out of the main character without any real development in between so that they can fight the main villain.
I don't like when that happens. Like, I don't know. There needs to be a satisfaction. I'm not satisfied if suddenly, like, if I'm watching One Piece and then suddenly Luffy fucking grows a demon arm, I'm not going to be happy about that. Like, I'm not going to.
Whereas, like, so Goku's first time going Super Saiyan was really good because prior to him fighting Frieza, he had trained a lot. Like, a lot.
Constant training. And there's build up to it. There's talk about the Super Saiyan. There's a lot of things that build up to it. And there's also a bit of real worldness where everybody knows sort of like the idea of like a mom seeing her baby about to get hit by a car and like adrenaline makes her so much stronger or whatever.
That's what I liked about it.
There's a bit of real world. So like watching Krillin die. Yeah. And the Super Saiyan felt sort of realistic in a way. Whereas
it did. It wasn't a complete asshole because at the time it's like, okay, we know Frieza's really powerful. We also know Goku's really powerful. And Goku had gotten his body was severely damaged by Captain Ginyu. So he went into that incubator thing to heal. We know that Saiyans get stronger if they're close to death. He was close to death because Captain Ginyu started fucking up his body and stuff like that. So we know that Goku was close to death. He heals before the fight with Frieza, right? Like, doesn't he come out of the incubator?
Yeah, he completely heals because he's stuck. Because while he's healing, he can still sense everything that's happening. So as they're fighting Frieza and getting fucked up, he's getting worried, and he's like, "I need to hurry up and heal."
Yes,
like whatever. So he doesn't see Frieza until Frieza's in his final form.
Yes,
and by that time, Goku's fully healed, etc.
Yes. So Goku in the fight against Frieza or whatever is obviously not on Frieza's level, but then something traumatic happens that causes him to react emotionally, and it gives him a power up. And that is more of a Saiyan thing anyway. Like that is more realistic. It's kind of the same way Sasuke, they explain that the Uchiha get stronger based on their emotions.
Yeah.
And if they love someone, so basically Itachi dying amps Sasuke by a lot.
Yeah, and when it's written out a certain way, it doesn't feel like an ass pull.
Yeah,
when
it's cool.
In the middle of the fucking fight, or the middle of or the day before the fight, you're like, okay, I go into a room that fucking makes me 7 years. It's like, okay,
that's it, because Ichigo came out, his hair was longer. One of his arms was like the sleeve to his outfit was like a chain wrapped around his arm, so he looked really edgy. He looked really cool and everything, but he had clearly aged, and he got this insane power up. Now he's grabbing.
Mind you, this is now like, no exaggeration, like the 5th time Ichigo's done this.
Yes,
Ichigo has gone into a hyperbolic time chamber type training thing.
He has
multiple.
He's gone into one with his hollow.
Times.
There was one when he went into it with his hollow, and his hollow was like, you have to learn instinct, so he learns that. And he learns how to do the holification from the hyperbolic time chamber. He learns how to do Bankai super fast. They say that Bankai takes so long to learn, but then Orohara develops a special technique for just Ichigo that like essentially gives him his Bankai in 3 days. So there's a lot of that. We have to make the main character strong really fast out of nowhere. Let's put him in a dimension and let's do it. And it ends. It kind of sucks that it ends like that. It's one thing for it to happen throughout the story with lesser villains. For the main villain to be body, because that fight wasn't close. When Ichigo got out of the time chamber, Aizen was nothing to him.
No, it wasn't. It didn't.
Mugs him. He mugs him. He fucking mugs Aizen.
Yeah, they don't rumble. Like, they don't fucking rumble. Like, he just gets housed.
He gets that fucking word. He does get housed. Aizen gets absolutely housed. He gets mugged, and it's not just like I mug you. It's also I mug you and I travel with you across the fucking. I don't even know what they traveled far, far away into a valley somewhere, and he throws Aizen down, and it's just disrespectful.
It's super anticlimactic. And at the time, that was the end of Bleach, right?
I remember
Bleach.
That was the end.
We thought Bleach was done at that time.
Yeah, that was it. That was supposed to be like the final chapters and stuff, because it was called even the chapter where he uses Mugetsu is called like the final Getsuga Tensho, and you knew that the price to pay for it was he would lose all of his Shinigami powers.
Yeah.
If you do this technique, his dad told him, like, if you do the final Getsuga Tensho, you will no longer be a Shinigami. So there were stakes. It was a whole big thing. And, he does it. Aizen still doesn't die from it, which is wild. But then he gets sealed, apparently, because of something that happened like 50 chapters before when he was fighting Orohara, and he said, I knew you would let me attack you with that weaker Keto spell, and you let your guard down. And that Keto spell was actually a decoy for another Keto spell that I put inside of you. So that way it would seal you at this point when you're weakened. So you're weakened right now. But what was really happening, because Aizen's sword started to crumble, and as his sword was crumbling, he was like, look, the Hogyoko I'm evolving again is determined that I don't even need a sword. He's like, I've transcended. His whole thing was, I want to transcend Hollow and Shinigami. That was Aizen's whole thing was,
and I want to. Remember he mentions like the throne is empty or whatever.
Yeah, that was what he said to Orohara at the very end. He was explaining that you've seen it for yourself, haven't you? You've seen the Soul King, the throne is empty. And he told Orohara that it's loser talk to see the world as it is and not as the world should be, which I actually really agree with. That is one of the reasons why Aizen is one of my favorite villains, is because he basically is telling Orohara, you're a smart person. Looking at the world and accepting it for what it is not the way people who have the brain that we have should behave. We should be looking to change the world and basically make it better. Whatever better is to you. Now, better, that might be the part where Aizen twisted. but we want to make the world
That's where, Aizen and Thanos, they sit down and they start talking. I was like, listen, guys, wait a minute.
Yes.
Your version of better is a little different than my version.
The version of better that Thanos had is a bit wild because it's like, okay, your version of better is I want to kill half the population of the universe. Like that's not like, yes, technically from a resource standpoint, things will be better, but from a every other fucking possible standpoint, this is awful. This is an awful idea. Why can't you just make more resources with all that power you have? Why can't you just fucking
just double the size of the universe?
Yes, like what the fuck? How did you arrive at cut the shit in half and then random too? You think that's a good idea? Random,
yeah, just random. At least like if you're going to do that, at least get rid of the bad people. I don't fucking know, man. I don't even know.
It was wild, but yeah, Aizen basically tells him that that's coward talk. And we need to change the way the world is. The world's not set up in a good way. So, but even that was vague and kind of like, what is he talking about? Because you don't really understand what the fucking Soul King is. You don't understand any of it. So it's like, what is Aizen?
In the last minute, in the last quarter, they wanted to add a little something. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes that shit gets me. Maybe I'm a sucker.
But it got me too because I was
at this point, I was like kind of over Bleach, but then I was like, oh, that's interesting.
It was because up until that point. The chapters were pretty ignorantly corny, where Ichigo was just bodying Aizen for several moments, and you're thinking to yourself, "This is the character that has not lost anyone, has not been close to losing anyone, and now he's actually getting housed." So I definitely felt out of it at that time. But when Aizen started talking like that, I was like, "Well, clearly this is going to be another arc of some sort.
Yeah,
clearly this is going to be something else." And it roped me back in too, which is why I started to read that 1,000-year blood war arc, and all of that.
I've seen all of normal Bleach, and I've started like the Fullbringer stuff and kind of what after that, but I never ended up really finishing it.
Yeah, and I don't blame you because I stopped too. I went halfway through the 1,000-year Blood War arc, and I'm gonna wait until it's animated. I'm probably not even gonna read it. I'm just gonna wait until it's animated.
I am excited, nostalgia and stuff. I am excited for the anime to come back, and I'm down to watch it too for sure.
Yeah, I actually really like whenever it comes back. I'm 100% going to watch it. I can't wait, and I hope it has like really good animation and all of that stuff.
As a quick side, speaking of good animation. We're going to do an episode on it, I guess, but the Jujutsu Kaisen JJK, we talked about it a little bit, but what do you think about it being, I feel like it's inspired by Bleach.
It does have a Bleach feel,
feels
doesn't it?
Very
something about it is very Bleach-like. And you watched it more recently than I have. So what do you think it is that makes it feel that way?
Well, first I want to say, I think it's cool because something that you'll see is certain anime or manga have such an impact on the industry where you feel their inspirations later on. Like you can watch a random slice of life anime, and in the anime they're like, "Oh, I got to go home and watch One Piece." Like it's a really funny thing, but you'll see random characters like, "Oh, I got to hurry up and go home. I need to watch One Piece or whatever." Yeah. And in JJK, for example, there's a moment that's really cool where I think Gojo's teaching. I actually don't remember. Yuji, is the main character's name Yuji?
I don't remember.
I don't really remember the main character's name.
I don't remember it.
But Gojo's like teaching him stuff about magic powers, and he gets excited. He's like, "Oh, can I do a Kamehameha, a spirit gun, a Rasengan?" Like he starts naming shit like a Kitsuga Tensho. Like he starts naming different things, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cute and cool."
It is really cool.
But as for, I feel like it's direct inspiration is Bleach in that. The whole setup and how it goes. So we have kind of like we have a high school kid, and he's really strong and kind of badass, but also sort of a loner. Whatever. It's not something too crazy, but he's just really kind of outlandishly strong for what he is, or just different.
Yes, he's different. He's
able to see these spirits, these curses, without any curse power. Same. Ichigo was his whole thing was like he was bothered by curses, like ghosts and spirits and stuff.
Yep. So before he even became a real Shinigami.
Yeah, before he was a Shinigami, he could see ghosts and stuff. And same thing with the main character, JJK. Before he became a curse, he could see the curses, and it was just kind of, whatever. And then he gets a crazy strong power-up sort of in the heat of a moment where he needs to save somebody, where Ichigo needs to save his family.
It kind of starts the same way.
Yeah, like it starts kind of the same. And then
it was death or die. Literally, if Ichigo didn't do that, it was death.
And then it kind of starts with a bit of a monster of the week. It doesn't go on for as long as Bleach does, but there's a bit of a monster of a week.
Yeah.
And then
they should have gone around killing curses and exercising curses and like, okay, this is kind of what Jujutsu sorcerers do.
Yep. And then you get introduced to a traitor. We still don't really know anything about him, but we know there's a guy that's going around. We know he's part of the JJK hierarchy. Yes. And so we see who this traitor is. and he's setting everything up, but like we know that they don't know yet. But there's a sorcerer trader that's setting up things, and he's sort of at the moment setting up the
it is very similar when you think about it.
A lot of the powers and the way it feels, JJK just feels very, 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 very inspired by Bleach. And I think it's kind of cool, but it's just interesting. It's something that I noticed. I think it's cool because Bleach. I think it's cool to see the impact that Bleach has had long term. Because as much as at the time everybody talked about Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece, as time has gone on, I feel like Bleach has been looked at less and less favorably compared to One Piece and stuff and Naruto. But
Naruto is.
I think it's cool to see. I think it's cool to see sort of the influence Bleach did have, because it was gigantic and huge and had a big impact at a time.
At the time that it was airing.
And so I do think, going through JJK, it was cool looking at like, man, this really feels like it was directly inspired by Bleach.
Yes, and so I think that there's a big comparison to be drawn between Bleach, Naruto, and JJK, and it's one of the reasons why, and we'll have a JJK episode soon because you just finished it. One of the reasons why I actually don't feel too strongly about Jujutsu Kaisen. Like, I'm not crazy about it. It just seems like a regular shonen.
It's cool. It's just like a cool show.
It's super cliche right now, and I heard that it's going to get better with the Shibuya arc or whatever the fuck. But it's super cliche. Its main character is born pretty much more athletic and more powerful than everyone else who is around him. And then he inherits the most powerful demon that exists, right? So Naruto, he inherits the most powerful demon that exists.
Yep.
Bleach, Ichigo inherits the most powerful hollow that exists.
Yep.
And every time these characters, Naruto, Itadori, and Ichigo, are about to lose a fight, what happens? The fucking
demon comes out
and it ruins whoever they're fighting. And this has happened. And if they're injured beyond repair, like I said, at one point, Byakuya put a hole in Ichigo. Okay, like an actual, like he white lightnings him, and then Ichigo's hollow comes out, it heals it. Naruto suffers. He gets Chidori by Sasuke, a hole again in his body.
Itadori has a hole in his chest, but this was caused by the demon itself. But still, has a hole in his chest,
and it gets healed.
And it gets healed.
So it's like when I'm watching it, all I see is every other shonen I've ever watched on display.
Yeah,
except like Hunter x Hunter, because Hunter x Hunter is like still.
Well, when I watched JJK, 24 episodes. Now I watched it all. Like I think I watched the first 7 episodes in one night, and then I watched from 8 to 24 the next night, and I enjoyed it. It was a fun watch.
Yes, however, I think it's a good watch, and it's animated beautifully. Oh my god!
Yeah, it looks really nice. The fights look nice, and it was a fun watch. But if I had just watched it on my own at one point. It's not an anime. I would have never expected it to become what it is. I'm because it's like the newest hottest shit right now. Everybody's like on the JJK hot train.
They've left Demon Slayer for this,
and I never would have guessed. Like if I had just watched it before, I never would have guessed like this was going to be. It's like it's cool.
Yeah,
but I can't believe how big it is.
So that's what I was saying. And I don't think I've said this to you, but when Jujutsu Kaisen was really big when it was airing and everything, everyone was going so crazy about it. And I was saying, I don't see it for this show. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
And that could really be because I've watched so many shonens. So the archetype, like I said, it is literally a carbon copy of Bleach and Naruto. It is fucking the same exact main character. He is a demon. Yeah. It's the strongest one. It saves his life whenever he's about to lose a fight. He's trying to develop a relationship with the demon. You know, at some point that's going to happen. Like all of these... Like all of these things is so fucking cliche. At least right now, this is only 24 episodes, but at least right now,
we haven't read the manga.
Setup, yes, we don't read the manga, but the initial setup of JJK is so cliche. So seeing Bleach and then seeing this, I'm like, well, this is the same. Like this is the same thing. Like you said, Ichigo, and I think his name is it Itadori.
I think it's Itadori Yuji or something.
Yeah, like that. I think it is his name. So yeah, they're very very similar. So I see it. I see the similarities in the villains and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know, like curses are hollows basically. So I see that too. That's what it really is. I think
the curses and the hollows. That's what
because hollows come out of nowhere. They look really freaky. Like they just look like these freaky demon looking things. And then you have to exercise them. And Bleach is kind of the same thing. These hollows come out of nowhere. They look really freaky.
That's why my initial really thing was like, man, this feels like Bleach. Can see the Naruto. I can see a little bit of the Naruto in there, but my initial feeling just
it is more Bleach than Naruto for sure. 100%. 100%. Yeah, no, I agree with that. All right, well let's let's jump over to one of the craziest fucking moments. Since we're talking about the demons inside these characters in Bleach, I think for me, top 2 most crazy moments that has happened so far is Ichigo against Ukiura.
Yeah, we mentioned this a couple times. Yeah.
Yes. So Ichigo against Ukiura is so intense. So that fight starts off.
Can I say real quick? I don't know if you remember this. At this time, I had already kind of fell out of Bleach because I was really into Bleach, and then different things happened. I kind of just fell out of it. And then one day we're hanging out at Red Caps, where if you guys don't know, that's where we would play Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff and meet up. That's the local. So we're hanging out at Red Cap, and I'm sitting there, and we're just talking about shit. And me and Frazier are just talking about random anime and stuff, and he's getting hyped. And he pulls up his laptop. He literally opens up his laptop, goes to YouTube or whatever, or maybe he had the file on his computer. I don't know. But he shows me, like, because he asked, he was like, "Did you see the Ukiura Ichigo fight?" I'm like, "No, I haven't really kept up with Bleach." And he's like, "Yo," and he's getting super hyped, and he shows it to me. And we watched it. I sat there. I'm sitting there's like all this shit happening in the background. People are playing Yu-Gi-Oh! It's loud.
Yep.
And me and Frazier just sitting in the corner watching fucking Bleach on this laptop. And then when I see him put the hole in Ichigo's chest, Frazier is like, you know he fucked up, right? And he's like popping the fuck off.
It got so bad. So that fight starts off inside of Las Noches, which is the main building of Hakomundo. Mm-hmm. It starts off inside, and there's a rule that Ukiura tells Ichigo about. If you want to use your resurrection, your transformation, when the Arrancar pretty much transform, they release their sword. The only way they can do that, the ones that are 4 and higher, is if they leave Las Noches. You are not allowed to do it indoors, basically. You have to go above and outside, essentially. Like, don't do that shit in here. Don't do that shit in my house. So Ichigo's fighting Ukiura. They're going back and forth. Ichigo's doing the hollow mask. He's hollowified, and he's doing a pretty decent job. He's not really pressuring Ukiura too much. But at one point, he does slice Ukiura's, I think it's his chest or something. Or maybe Ukiura, I think Ukiura, he slices Ukiura, and Ukiura grabs the sword and cuts the shirt open for Ichigo. He cuts his own shirt open at one point, like earlier in the series, to show that he's number 4. And he basically shows Ichigo, like, you never had a chance. So when they're fighting and Ichigo's actually kind of holding his own a bit, Ukiura kind of like starts to retreat to go up outside of Las Noches. And Ichigo follows him out there. He's like, you know, you've made a mistake coming out here with me, because now I can actually release my sword. And God, when he releases his sword and becomes that demon Ukiura mode, or whatever you want to call it. First of all, Ukiura looks cool as shit.
He does.
He just looks cool naturally. But when he releases, like the it's called Seto, right? And it's like this green beam or whatever. Yes. It's like that shit looks hot as fuck.
Zero, it's like green and black.
Yes, the noise it makes, it makes that cool ass noise that I can't even really mimic it. So forgive me for that, but it sounds cool as shit. And then they have like the Cero Oscuras, which is like the black Cero. And then they have the Grand Ray Cero that you saw Grimjaw do. But yes, he goes outside to release his sword, and so first of all, the whole concept that the top 4 Espada are not allowed to even use their resurrection indoors just makes it sound so hype. Again, the Bleach with the hype moments. Bleach has so many of them.
They have a lot of really good moments. That's what he was writing for. He was writing for the moments.
Yes.
The in-betweens weren't all that tight, but when he got to the moment was usually
the hype. Moments are hype as fuck. So they go outside, he transforms, and he becomes this thing with like wings, and he looks really cool. And he tells Ichigo, who's way below him, like Ukiura is really high up, and Ichigo's way below, and he tells him, don't breathe, don't think, don't move. And as he's saying that,
damn, what's this, a Tekken song?
Right.
Remember that Tekken song?
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. As he's saying, he flash steps, but the way they show it is he literally just appears in front of Ichigo, and it makes this crazy like horror movie sound, like king. It makes this scary ass sound. Ichigo, like the spirit pressure, the screen shaking, and Ichigo basically is almost cut in half. And Ukiura says, I'm surprised, the typical, I'm surprised you blocked that.
Yep.
Like he reacted off instinct type of thing. And he just starts bodying Ichigo for no reason. I mean, he just bodies him for the entire episode. The whole chapter is just Ichigo getting his ass beat, which is usual. Ichigo gets his ass beat a lot. And at the end of the ass beating, he brings Ichigo in front of Orihime, and he puts a fucking hole in his chest with Cero. Like he Ceros him through the chest and puts his big ass hole in him, and Ichigo transforms into a fucking hollow. or he may start screaming. She screams, he gets back up, and from there, not only I think that's one of the best episodes of not only Bleach but anime. Period. Like if you like action anime, if you like shonens, the episode when Ichigo transforms into a hollow against Ukiura is animated so fucking good. The music is so fucking good. Like I love the music. I love the music of Bleach. Bleach has some of the best music, but the music for that particular episode is amazing, and it's just Ichigo in that form beating the shit out of Ukiura for several minutes, and everything that Ukiura does, Black Zero, like his special technique, Lanza del Relampago, where he like creates this little javelin thing with his hands and he throws it and Ichigo's hollow dodges it and then it blows up in the background and you see this gigantic nuclear explosion that can take out several mountains. It could take out several mountains. So it's like, okay, that's a mountain level attack easily.
He does the thing where like between the horns, like the energy starts gathering between the horns.
And he does his own, he does Zero.
Yeah.
He does his own version of Zero against fucking Ukiura. He slices Ukiura's horn off. I mean, he cuts his arm off. He mugs him into a building, and it's just bad. He's faster than him. He's stronger than him. None of the attacks do anything to Ichigo. He's so outrageous, and he looks cool. He gets really long hair.
Hollow Ichigo looks dope as shit.
It's very Yu Yu Hakusho inspired, right? It's very Yusuke being possessed by his dad.
So funnily enough,
the guy's name. What's the guy's name?
Shisui. No. Yusuke's dad is like
no, the guy he was fighting against at the time.
Oh yeah. I think it is Shisui.
Yeah. But go ahead.
But funnily enough, speaking of JJK being inspired by Bleach, I do feel like Bleach whereas I think JJK is very heavily inspired by Bleach.
Yeah, it is.
I feel like Bleach is lightly inspired by Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yes.
I don't know for sure, but it always felt like early Bleach.
I think that's a fair thing to say.
Some things that Bleach went into felt like lightly inspired by Yu Yu Hakusho.
Going to the demon world, going to the world with the hollows, like it's very bad.
And how Yusuke became like a spirit detective, it's because he died and whatever happened.
Ichigo became a spirit detective.
So
yeah, it's very that. He looks cool as shit. Really long hair, really big horns. His hollow mask completely covers his face. He just looks insane. He looks insane. Everything about him terrifying looking.
Also, the white on black is sick because Ichigo wears all black, and then seeing his skin, like yes, Ichigo's like his skin is that of a white person, I guess, but when his skin is hollow white,
it's
that
different.
Bone white.
Yeah, it's way
that
looks
bone
petrified.
White on black is sick as fuck.
Yes, and his Bankai outfit's still on, but it's like ripped up.
Yep.
Like I'm looking at your background right now. That just the part that I can see of that looks so cool.
It's fucking hot.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite anime episodes, period, of anything. I just think that it's so well directed. The music and the animation holds up right now. Like if you watch it right now, find a good file, a good 1080p version of that episode. It is animated so crisp. There's none of that bullshit that they do in some of the older animes, or even some of the new ones where it's like stills, a bunch of still images. There's fluidity in all of the movements and stuff, so it doesn't look stupid.
Yeah, that shit is tight. What this is kind of random, but we're talking about power levels and shit. So
yes, let's talk about power scaling because Bleach has some fucking.
What do you put? Because I feel like Bleach and Naruto, even though they share a lot of fans, they also have a lot of fans that hate each other.
Yes.
And so where do you put?
So in the power rankings,
Ichigo versus Naruto.
I think that Bleach characters naturally scale higher than Naruto characters. I think that's just.
I agree.
If you don't agree, I don't really know what you be basing that off of, because let me just say a couple things. So the characters in Bleach start off way stronger than the characters in Naruto. For example, the characters in Naruto are humans. The characters in Bleach are death gods. You can't even see death gods to begin with. You can't even see them. That's the first thing. So regular humans can't even see these fucking people. Flying in Bleach is a normal thing. People can all Shinigamis can
not even just flying. They just stand on the air.
So they stand on the air and they can literally fly. Flying in Naruto is a really big deal. Like pretty much no one can just fucking fly. Like most Naruto characters can't just like lift themselves into the air and start flying for no reason at all. Like that's not a thing in Naruto really. The only character who really does that type of thing, who's like he's not right. He's a Kage. It's the fucking Tsuchikage dude.
Tsuchikage.
Like he's using a special
or whatever.
Yes, he's using a special technique that's specific to him that like controls his gravity and all that stuff. So like Flying in Naruto is a really big deal. Bleach characters naturally just fly. Like flying is nothing to them. Also, moving at crazy high speeds is also extremely normal in Bleach. And in Naruto, their speed feats are like, like okay.
They have high speed movement, but
they
it doesn't feel the same.
It's not the same level. There's no one moving at 500 times the speed of sound. Like that's just not. You're not getting statements like that in Naruto. The thing that you are getting is everyone always talks about this fucking moment, which I hate that this is talked about so much, but it's when Madara does the fastest attack in his Sage mode, where he shoots this purple laser out of his mouth, and it's considered the speed of light. And Naruto dodges it so he can react. It's not the same thing as like I move at the speed of light, but he can react to it. So Naruto reacts to it and dodges that fucking attack. And everybody's like, oh, Naruto moves at light speed. Like Naruto doesn't move at light speed. Like stop. Like there's just like stop. So there's that like flash stepping in general. It just scales so much fat. Like the yellow flash in Naruto is such a big deal. He ended a whole war because he can flash step essentially. Like he can teleport around the field. Whereas Bleach characters, they just can do that. Like that's just a normal. It's not even abnormal.
I've kind of always felt this way. I've always felt basically everything you're saying is how I pretty much have always felt. Like the Bleach characters, you know, regardless of which one you like more as a show or as a manga, I do feel like even at baseline, Bleach characters were stronger at Naruto at baseline, and then even where they went, they just kind of
it just got out of hand. Higher. And now where Bleach is with the 1,000-year blood arc and stuff like that, there's meteors and stuff like that happening. So like people want to bring up that from Madara. Like there's also that happening in Bleach. There's a lot. There's
also
a lot of
general durability is just higher. Like in Naruto, I feel like in Naruto, I guess barring extremely endgame fucking Naruto being Jesus, being stabbed by a kunai can still kill you.
Yes.
Like just getting, you know what I mean? Like you can die from normal human things in Naruto. Also, as crazy as the shit they do is, they can still die in normal ways.
That can still, I mean, literally Madara, when he lost to Hashirama, he put a sword through his back.
Yeah.
He didn't do a crazy technique. He didn't do some fucking jutsu that was a fireball or some gigantic beam or blast. It was literally a sword to Madara's back that killed Madara, essentially. Very regular. Now, end of series Naruto, obviously, you know, Endgame Sasuke, Endgame Naruto, they're very powerful. They're very powerful characters. I just don't think that they're Bleach powerful characters. Like Bleach has just too many characters that are ridiculous. And I also think that Aizen is stronger than Madara, which I believe Swag Kage and Seth the Programmer, they talked about that as well, and they pretty much gave the W to Aizen. Like
I do think Aizen,
like I don't see what Madara is really going to do against someone whose illusion powers are way stronger than their Sharingan. Like Kyoka Suigetsu is just clearly a stronger version of Genjutsu. Like it is.
Yeah,
it's just
hitting Aizen with a big ass tree isn't going to do much.
It doesn't do anything.
The big tree and his giant fireballs, like that shit ain't doing nothing.
Aizen doesn't. None of those attacks that they do, like it's just nothing. None of that is going to work. Like Susanoo doesn't mean anything. Like none of that shit scales on his level. It's just,
how hot would that be? Fucking, he puts the Susanoo up, and then fucking the next panel is Aizen inside the Susanoo touching Madara's chest.
I would love that. That would be so fucking cool. He's like, what is that for? The spiritual pressure is so low that I can do this, and it's just him touching his chest. Yeah, that would be fucking cool as shit. Yeah, I would love to see the fight, but I don't think it would be much of a fight. I think that the second the fight starts, they will both probably try to do genjutsu on each other. Aizen's is superior, and Aizen also has the real hacks is that Aizen is fused with the Hogyoko, which it makes him immortal. That's just the first issue. Like that is the immediate problem, is that Aizen is literally immortal. Like he is fused with this fucking thing that makes it where his wishes come true or whatever it does. He can't really die. Like it's just not a really fair comparison. He pretty much was zero difficulty the entire Naruto verse. I don't think anyone in Naruto could deal with him. They would have to try to seal him in some kind of way, but I don't think that anybody could catch him, especially with his illusions. There's just a lot going on.
I do agree. I don't think you always see those things like it'll be a fucking picture of Naruto and Sasuke, and it's like these two walk into Soul Society. What happens? It's like they get fucking clapped. Like that's what happens.
Like I don't. Like, what do you mean? Like that little Thunder Chidori. Like what is that? Like what are you doing? Like
Naruto and Sasuke. I think they could put in some work. I think they could beat up some people. But
yes, I agree. I do think that they could beat some people. I just think that like you compare the main characters of Bleach, though, the captains and stuff like that, to you scale them to Naruto,
like captains versus Akatsuki, right? Like that's going to captain.
It's not even close.
That's going to captain.
It's not even close. Mayuri will probably beat everybody with his fucking insane serum thing that makes it where you can't react because you're so superhuman that 1 second takes you 10 years to experience. Like, come on.
Yeah,
Like that that superhuman serum alone is too much. He said that I diluted it, I think 1,000 times. So one drop of it will give a baby the ability to react to a bullet.
Yep.
Like
Some
he said something
nonsense.
Yes, like absolute ridiculous power scaling. A baby could react to a fucking bullet. Like what?
Nonsense.
It's just not even. It's not really fair. It's not really fair at all. Bankais. Bankais are basically everyone's personal Susanoo, or like everyone's personal Bijou, because they're so big in nature. Like Kimomura's.
They're also just absurdly strong. Like
they are.
Everybody that has a Bankai has a Super Saiyan.
Yes.
And not all the Naruto characters have a fucking Sage mode or a Bijou cloak
or Susanoo or whatever. Yeah, they don't have shit like that. So it's like, what the fuck? Like, what do you even do when people start pulling out their Bankais? And some of the Bankais are reality warping. So Shinji, the Vizar dude, he reverses everything. Like everything's reversed. Up, down, left, and right, all directions, they're all reversed. Stuff like that is like, what do you even do? Like, what do you even do to some of these reality?
Tozen's is just like
it's that infinite darkness.
You lose like all your senses,
all
right?
All 5 senses go.
They're just gone.
You can't. And so one of the Kages, I think it's the first or the second, they have the ability to do a thing where you can't see, like infinite darkness. And it was developed against the Sharingan to be like an anti-Sharingan technique. But imagine losing all of your senses.
And that's just Tozen's Bankai. Like he just does that. Like, that's just like you're fighting Tozen. This is what Tozen does.
This is what he does normally, and it's just a regular thing for him. I'm trying to think about who else is like just not okay. You seen Rukia's Bankai?
I've seen it. That's like part of that's like after Fullbringer and shit, right? I've seen it, but I wasn't actively reading it, but I've seen it.
It's absolute zero.
Yeah.
It's absolute zero. So like, what the fuck do you do?
I remember I found out about that because at the time I wasn't reading Bleach, and I went over to your house. You were living with Medina at the time, and we were talking about Bleach, and you were because one of Medina's favorite characters was Rukia, and you were like, "Yo," and you were talking about Rukia's Bankai, and you were showing it to us.
Yeah, it's not okay. I mean, so there's a lot of Bleach nonsense that just I don't see Naruto characters scaling to. I don't see Might Guy, who's one of the strongest characters in Naruto, who needed a lot of help to attack Madara. Like he needed help from the fourth Hokage, he needed help from Kamui, from Kakashi, just to like get a hit off of Madara.
I think all 8 gates will make people turn their head, but I think at the end of the day, it's not.
Yeah, like I don't like. What are you gonna do? Like, what do you like? Your physical attacks are just not gonna cut it, boy. Like I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Bleach characters are a very high power scale. We can have the same discussion when we get to the One Piece episode, which will be our next episode. So we want to get the big 3 out the way, so we can start talking about them more and have the ground. These episodes are like the foundation.
One Piece's power scaling so weird to me. On some ends, I feel like they're so fucking ridiculously strong.
Me too. That's why I think it's interesting to talk about because
they're hard to place.
Because you have meteors dropping from somebody like Fujitora.
Yeah,
like he can pull meteors out the sky. But then you have like the main character who just is rubber and punches people.
Yeah, but he's like so strong. So it's weird. It's tough to place them because it's really tough to place One Piece characters on scaling. It's tough.
Like I will say,
I'd have to really think about it.
So seeing some of the Kaido arc and Kaido being a dragon and him using his like energy blast and how that would have wiped out everyone.
Yeah,
that being so ridiculous in that world, that Kaido was ridiculous because of that shit. He could level a city, right? So Naruto clearly with the fucking QB can easily Bijou bomb and they will be wiped out. Like all of the people who had to run away from when Kaido nuked the fucking top of that mountain or whatever when he first appeared in the dragon form.
Yeah.
And he shot that blast. And obviously, we knew that they didn't die, but all the people that he was going to kill with that blast, like the way they were running away from it and shit before Trafalgar Law did his nonsense, like that blast would have killed them. That is a blast that will kill them, and Naruto can do that blast 1,000,000 times over. That's the QB can just start firing those things, and you've seen it. You've seen the fucking thing shoot blast out that are mountain level. They just level cities, just destruction. So Naruto characters are very, very powerful in that regard. Well, not all of them, but the Naruto and Sasuke.
Yeah.
It's really, when you talk about Naruto, you're pretty much talking about like five people.
You're
talking about like five people.
Nobody's fucking talking about, what Ino does.
Exactly. But the 5 people in Naruto who are the strongest are very strong compared to like every other anime strong characters too, outside of like DBZ, who are planetary. Like there's not really much planetary action happening in Naruto. People always try to talk about Kage having a truth-seeking orb that can destroy the planet. That's fine. That's one character. But for the most part, no one else has any fucking planetary attacks. So stop comparing fucking Naruto characters to DBZ characters. That's just not.
Yeah, I mean, the lore on Kid Buu is that before he got sealed 10,000 years ago, like he fucking wiped out, like he was going around wiping out galaxies. Like he was
galaxies, like multiple
traveling, destroying galaxies and shit. So
multiple. So it's not even power scaling for Bleach is really high though. I used to always say I don't think that they're Dragon Ball character level because they don't destroy planets clearly, but I would put them like the category below them would be Bleach. Like it's Bleach after that for me.
Yeah, they're pretty high up there.
And then Naruto in one
fight, like I know, and I don't say this as a bad thing because when you say Raditz, people are like, "Oh, you're capping," but Raditz is fucking strong.
Yeah,
like I'd be interested to see how far into DBZ like they go.
Yes, yeah. I don't know, and I don't even
because I don't think they make it to Frieza.
No,
they don't make it to Frieza. Like
Frieza's planetary.
Yeah, they don't make it to Frieza.
Frieza's easy planetary though. That's the scary thing. Frieza has destroyed Namek and Vegeta.
And multiple. Frieza is Space Hitler. Like he takes over planets, he sells them, he destroys them.
But he's easy. The thing is, it's easy planetary. Oh, Frieza also destroyed Earth in a movie.
In Form 1, he's Space Hitler without final form. Like in his first form, he's Space Hitler.
So like I don't. And Cell was going to, if I'm not mistaken, Cell was going to destroy the entire world with his explosion, right? Like when he was going to suicide bomb himself. Like
the explosion, Imperfect Cell, second form Cell, that explosion was going to destroy the planet.
Yes.
And then Goku took him.
So
and these people, they understand power. Like they understand how strong moves are. Like Goku was like, oh, like he knew like this is going to destroy the planet. He took it to King Kai's planet. Yes, King Kai's planet is smaller than Earth, but it's also like denser and stronger. It has 10 times the gravity of Earth or whatever.
Yes.
And it destroyed King Kai's planet.
Yeah. So we say all that to say, most anime characters do not scale to Dragon Ball. Anything, Super, Z, anything. They casually destroy the moon. We talked about this on our Gojo versus Beerus episode on our YouTube channel, so check that out. If you're unaware that we do have a YouTube channel, IMNerd Podcast, so look that up. But we are going to do little videos like versus series where we might have, Ichigo versus Naruto or something like that. We will do some of that type of thing. But we already did one, and essentially we talk about how powerful DBZ characters are, DB Super characters are, and they're just casually destroying moons. They casually destroy planets. Beerus is a god of destruction because he wipes out fucking planets and galaxies and shit like that.
He just points at it, and it's
it's casual.
If it exists in the universe, Beerus can destroy it.
Yes. So nothing in Naruto, nothing in Bleach. I don't really see scaling to that, except of course reality warping things, which neither one of these anime had a lot of that going on. And even then, it might not matter. So because as Aizen would said, battles against Shinigamis are just Ryetsu, and I'm stronger than you, Soifan. So that shit doesn't do anything. All right. Well. Let's before we wrap this up, let's just read. We have one listener letter, I believe, from our boy Austin. I just want to read.
That's my boy. Yeah, Austin, by the way, one of our first patrons on Patreon.
Yes, at the highest tier.
Thank you very much, man. Thanks for the support.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. All right, so he talks about from episode 9 we talked about Naruto. He said, "Did you guys ever play the Naruto Ultimate Ninja games on PS2? It was the 2.5D fighter, one camera, but you can switch between the stage foreground and background. Neji was the main one I used until Itachi was introduced in the second one. Then you could customize which moves to give your character. Itachi with exploding clones. They didn't walk. They just appeared next to the opponent anywhere on the map. And Chidori was broken." So I actually did play these games. I played them a lot before Ninja Storm happened. And I always thought that they were not very good fighting games, but they were fun.
They were fun games. They were fun.
You could
and
jump
the supers in those games looked fucking amazing.
Yes. They were fun. So those ultimate Ninja games where you could go in the foreground and the background, I did like them, but it was very campy. And there were items and shit like that. Like items would come and they were always like shock or recovery because I played it in English.
Yeah, the game, it was like Smash Bros, but not as refined as Smash Bros.
Yes, you comboed off. There wasn't really much you could do unless you had a substitution. Substitution, you get you out of everything. And then you had like very campy stuff going on where you jump in the background and in order to attack me, you have to jump in the background too. So I jump in the foreground and you jump in the foreground. It's like I was like, this is a rant. And but they were fun. And I do think Chidori was broken because it tracked you. You would try, you couldn't defend, you couldn't do anything. It was like that shit. If they're charging Chidori, you need to move to the background or something because it will hit you and does a ton of damage.
Yeah, those games were fun. I know a friend of mine, like I always preferred the GameCube ones because they just felt like more normal fighting games.
Yeah.
But a friend of mine always played the PS2 one. And we would argue about which one was better. But the PS2 one I thought was fun, but I didn't enjoy it much as like if me and a friend were playing and wanted to like really be better than the other one.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy them in that way.
For sure.
But yeah, they were fun. I like those games.
Yeah.
And I like the evolution of them too, like the Ninja Storm games.
Yeah, they're cool as fuck.
They're not competitive games, but they're really fun games to play.
Yeah. Yeah, I never looked at Ninja Storm as too competitive just because I don't know. We'll have a different discussion about we should have a discussion about really all of the anime video games because there's a lot.
There's a whole
I've actually played the Bleach fighting game too, and it's not good either. It's Bleach to Soul. It used to be called.
PS one?
Yeah. It was on a couple Nintendo products, and I think maybe even PSP at one point or like something like that. But there was Bleach to Soul, as my friend would call it. I don't know if it's actually, I think it was called Bleach Soul or something like that. But my friend would call it Bleach to Soul to be funny. And so I always knew it as Bleach to Soul. And shit just sounds ridiculous.
Yo, okay, real quick, before we end, this is super random. Did you ever see, I think it's called Sket Dance? Okay, so real quick, Frazier, look up, just Google Sket, S-K-E-T, and then dance. So this...
S-K-E-T?
Yeah, S-K-E-T. So this is, I don't know what this is. I've never read it, okay? I never read the manga. But I look at that and tell me that's not like the same font as... Doesn't it look like it was made by Type Kubo?
Yes.
Like, look at the front cover, like the font, and just...
Yeah, I'm looking at the little thing that showed up on the right of Google, and that is literally Type Kubo's... Like,
it looks just like Bleach, right? Anyway, for the longest time, I was like, oh, Type Kubo's new project is like this thing called Sket Dance, and I was like, eventually I'll get around to like reading it or whatever. But then one day I looked, and if I look at who the creator is, it's not Type Kubo. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck? I'm like, what the hell is this then? Like,
he does have something else, though, called Burn the Witch.
Yeah, he does have Burn the Witch, which is pretty cool.
You already know about it?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it.
Listen, side note, at the end of the day, I'm a degenerate. There was some fucking girl on a broom with some juicy thighs. I was like, well, I'm going to give that a read. That's all I needed to see.
Not juicy thighs.
Them thighs were juicy, all right? Like some nice chicken. But anyway, this is completely random. It technically has nothing to do with Bleach, but this Sket Dance thing, if you just look at the font, like where it says Sket Dance on the front cover of the manga or whatever, you can't look at that and tell me that doesn't feel like Bleach. But anyway.
It does, but I'm also seeing Gintama here, and Gintama has the same font as well. Unless
Gintama's
this is
some OG shit. I don't remember how Gintama looks, so let me go look at it real quick.
Well, look, I sent you a picture on Discord. This looks very... I don't know if this is a parody or something that I'm looking at. This picture, I don't know what...
Yeah. I know about Gintama. Yeah, maybe...
Oh, you know what? Because the Sket Dance characters are right there, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I think the characters that are in this Gintama image are the Sket... So maybe it's not actually Gintama, it's just using the font. But that is definitely Bleach's font. I agree with you 100%. But it's not Type Kubo's work at all, unless he's using an alien.
No, it's not. I think maybe it's made by the guy that made Gintama. Maybe that's what it is. But
okay, fair.
But I know when I first saw it, because I don't follow Gintama as much as I would follow Bleach. So yeah, I should get around to watching all of Gintama. But anyway, yeah, I just remember for a long time I thought Sket Dance was related to Bleach, and it is not. So that's all. I just wanted you to look at it and tell me what you thought.
Real quick before we go, let's give a shout out to our two patrons at the highest tier, Connie and Austin. Thank you so much for your patronage as usual. We use this money to support the podcast because, unlike, people may not know this, but it does cost money to actually run a podcast. So thank you for helping to contribute to that. And you can also see exclusive content on our Patreon by subscribing. We have 3 tiers, one at $3 tier, one $10 tier, and then a $20 tier, which is limited to 5 people.
Yeah,
But
so
check
if you
those
wanna-
out on our
if you
Patreon,
wanna
IMNerd
support, just to
Podcast.
support.
Yep.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
the
Perks
$3
you
tier,
get.
if you just want to support and join our Discord, that's fine.
And
We also have a YouTube channel that we're growing. So we would love support there too, even if it's just subscribing or liking our videos or commenting. Let us know what you think about them. We're going to do a whole bunch more of those. We have plenty of stuff dropping in the near future. More broken cards in history, more versus series, and if anything happens that's news related in the nerd culture, we will also be covering that in I Am Nerd News. So look out for all of those things in the future as well. But yeah, our YouTube channel, I'm really happy about that. I really like to see that grow and people engaging with it, and there's comments under it and stuff in our discussion. So I love our YouTube, obviously our podcast. Like, this is my favorite thing that I'm doing with my life right now, honestly. Like, I love it so much.
yeah, it's
so,
fucking sick.
yeah.
It's sick. It's a lot of fun, and I'm excited. I'm excited, trying to get it to grow and just seeing it grow and also just engaging with people. When I started, it's one of the things that I really enjoyed when I started streaming a while ago is that something I guess I didn't fully expect, and it's happening with this podcast and it's happening with the YouTube channel, is you kind of slowly start to make friends with people who you would have never met.
Yes.
And you interact and you talk to people and you have conversations with people through email or through comments or just, whatever correspondence that it just never would have happened. And you just, I don't know, it's fun. I enjoy talking, obviously.
Yeah. And you also found that there's so many people like you out there.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Yeah. Well, as we always say, so long, Gay Bowser.
So long. How did this start? Did we just why do we say long? Gay Bowser, get the hell out of here. All right.
I have no idea.
Get out of here, Gay Bowser.